Hello, everyone. My name is Apostate. The purpose of today's live stream is for ex-Muslims to call in and share your stories. If you'd like to join, if you're watching this live, I have pinned a link to the live chat. Just tell me in the private chat a brief description of who you are and what you'd like to talk about today. And before we begin, I would like to tell everybody how much I appreciate giving me the chance to do this. I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday about what what my purpose in life is, or rather, what his was as well. What I'm passionate about, and in the back of my mind, the entire time, I was thinking, this is something that I'm passionate about. Being able to help others, being able to have this channel, is something that I really appreciate. So, thank you to every single one of you callers who joins and opens up and trusts me in that way, and thank you to every viewer who gives me their time. So that aside, we have a few callers lined up already, but we can always have more. So if you'd like to join, link is pinned to the live chat. I will be taking the first caller right in a few seconds if they're ready. If you're ready right now, Setsuna, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
Hello. Uh, Actually, I thought about listening to other people first. Maybe you want to add other caller first. I wanted to listen to what they want to talk first, and then I decide whether I want to talk or not because I'm not actually have. It's not like I have a list of the things that I want to talk about. I just you know bust in into this as Muslim live stream and then talk about stuff as I go. So it's not like I have a plan or anything. So, I wanted to hear other people talk first. If the conversation becomes, too intelligent for me to, chime in, maybe I'm not going to talk. So, yeah.
That's
How
okay.
about
You
you?
don't have to worry about other callers. So as it stands right now, there are two other callers in line, but both of them have also been on the channel before, like yourself. I guess I'm sorry, I forgot that you had been on the channel before. But if you don't feel ready to talk, that's okay. But it shouldn't be because the conversation is, or you feel like you don't belong in the conversation. Would it be okay if I ask you some questions to see if there's anything you want to talk about?
Sure, sure. Of course.
Can you tell me, for example, how have you been? What are you up to these days? What's on your mind?
Uh, I mean, I still couldn't get to live the life that I wanted yet because I'm still trying to build it. It takes time. You know, I mean, just like all the good things, right? All good things takes time. So yeah, life has been normal, I guess. Yeah,
What
for
is
most
there
part.
anything that has changed since the last time you had called in?
Anything that has changed? I guess I do a lot of activism more. I mean, I'm not sure if I could call it activism. I just replied to a comment on Twitter and also post some ex-Muslim memes, and that's it. I'm not sure if that qualify as activism. Unlike basically you're not, even though you're not showing your full faces, but you are there. You're showing some of yourself and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess that's been the thing that changed. you know yeah, I do a lot more activism now.
Well, I don't to discount what you do already. I would still call it activism. It's still participating in a conversation. It's similar to as if you were in a like a public hall and you're having a discussion with people, but it's online. So thank you for your contribution. Don't discount that.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, the things that I want to talk about, I mean, it's been going crazy in Malaysia recently. I mean, there's a raid on a Halloween party during this year, I mean last year Halloween's. They basically raid a party, and the morality police, they basically raid a party, and there's like gay people there, transgender people there, and they got fined. they got fined like around 5,000 ringgit or something like that. Some of them was being put in jail and that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's crazy. You could raid a party. You know, it's a party. Like, just let them be. And
Well,
recently,
what were
there's
they fined for?
in
Like, what was the crime that they committed?
what was the crime they committed?
Or
I
like,
guess
what's the
for
charge that they...
dressing like a girl.
Okay. Like, how do they find out who's gay?
I don't
Like,
remember, but something like that.
hmm
Because because there's a you I don't know if you call it the same thing. Drag queen.
Oh, okay.
Basically a guy dressing a woman and singing on stage. And that kind of stuff. So yeah, they get fined for wearing you know a woman dress, basically something like that. And there's a political party in Malaysia called PAS, which is the Islamic political party. And recently they have been going, kind of like crazy on a country.
Are you there?
Hello? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. Mm, I just hear you breathing.
Your video feeds is stuttering.
No, I can see you and hear you. I can hear you fine. I mean, are we having connection issues? Seems like we have been disconnected, I think. Oh, no. That is too bad, but thank you for joining anyway. Um, we have couple more callers, both of which have been on the live stream before. So I will be taking Sultan next. If you would like to join, the link is pinned to the live chat. So, Sultan, if you're ready, I'm adding you in three, two, one. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Aladdin.
How are
Do
you?
you hear me?
Yeah,
Hi.
I hear you
Yeah,
fine.
I'm okay. And you?
I am good, thank you.
I have something in my mind, and I have leave Islam already, and I don't know. I don't like to admit it, but it's true, and I still sometimes doubt if it's maybe true. That hell exists and all this, because I think for me it's I have paranoid schizophrenia, and I had I can't pronounce this word well, hallucinations, when you see things that are not real.
Hallucinations, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, this thing. And I have seen myself so many times burning in hell, and sometimes I think I still doubt that maybe Islam is still the truth, because I, I was indoctrinated since childhood, and then seeing myself in hell and so. And I wanted to ask, will this be better with time? Will I get over it, or will this be forever part of me?
That
How is
is...
your experience?
Oh, first of all, I'm very sorry that you're going through that. That must be very, very difficult. Um,
Yeah.
I went through something similar, but probably not to the same extent of horror as you had went through. So I'm really sorry for that. But I want to reassure you that it, it's not rare that someone would go through this. So many people with or without mental health issues unrelated to the
Mm,
topic do have that recurring fear, but it does get better, or there are ways to make it get better. But more importantly, I would urge you, if you're able to have access to mental health professionals, to be able to help you with this,
mm,
because it's going to be bigger than just thinking your way through it. If it's a problem that you have with schizophrenia or something else, um, I myself, though I am not diagnosed with any of these problems, and I probably didn't have hallucinations to that kind of extent, I had a lot of these fears and recurring nightmares for a long time. And, part of what made me feel more comfortable is, well, it's multiple things. For the believer in me, um, which doesn't exist these days, but back when there was a little bit of what if inside me, I would think, if God exists, if Allah exists the way that I know Him from Islam, then Allah is fair. Allah knows what's going on in my mind. Allah knows how I arrived at these conclusions. Allah would not torture me sadistically just because. So that seemed to have dealt with some of that fear. And then for the rest, I would remember the ridiculousness of the story and how I'm simply scared of what I was brought up to be scared of. And someone else in a similar situation from another religion would have similar fears about their religion. And that made me feel a bit more comforted that it's not really about the truthfulness of it. It's hard to get rid of these ideas that were planted in you from a very young age or at a vulnerable stage in life. So I want to reassure you that it does get better. But if you're able to get some help, especially for hallucinations, I really urge you to do that.
For me, I don't know if it would help to talk about something. You know, I don't know if it would work if I don't believe it will work. You know how I mean? If I go just talk there, say there, yeah, I'm scared of hell, and talking about it, I don't know how this should help me. You know.
I don't know how a mental health professional tackles hallucinations or schizophrenia. So I really don't have much to say about that. But I would ask you to give it a chance, because I know it seems like all you'd be doing is talking about the fear itself, but maybe they have other strategies that I'm not aware of. Um,
Yeah.
is there anything that makes you? I mean, I know that the fear is very deep seated, but is there anything that still makes you question whether, aside from hell and all that, whether Islam is true?
Um, I don't think so, because for me, like you said, if God should be real, I don't think He would. But God is not a good God. Allah is not a good God, you know, because if He's ready to say, I will burn you in hell just because you don't believe in me, I don't think He's really the most merciful, you know. And for me, in my case, I think I really hate the idea of Allah, because how can you create a world like this with so much pain and suffering just to test us? Who are you, you know? Who are you to put so many people through hell on earth and all this? But same time, like I said, through me seeing myself and all this, I don't know how to get over this feeling. But I can see in the chat too many people say I should really get help from my doctor, because I'm already on medication. I take medication so I don't hear so much voices and have hallucinations and all this. So yeah, maybe I should give it a try, like you said, because it's really not easy. Sometimes I laugh about it, and sometimes I'm like this, I cry about it, you know. It's up and down. So, but if you say it's not so bad like in the beginning, but it's getting better. So I think maybe with time, yeah.
I think
Okay.
time is one component of it. I'm really, really sorry that you're going through this. I wish that there's anything more I could do to help with that. But I think aside from, thinking about it rationally, aside from all the conclusions that you already have about Islam, about Allah, definitely it would help to speak with a mental health professional about this, which you already do see a doctor, so it's worth mentioning to your doctor for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I will try that.
Yeah, and I hope to hear from you again, and I hope that these issues do go away.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for listening, Aladdin. It's always nice to hear you, and thank you for your good job being a voice for all of us. Have a
Happy
great call.
Thank you.
Good day, yeah?
Same to you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Sultan, once again for the call. It couldn't have been easy to do this. this hits very close to home for me because I do know someone personally, since way before I started this channel, who does have similar issues, and they were exacerbated at some point by Islam. And I get angry when I think about how we teach this to kids. We teach kids that fairy tales aren't real, that there's no monster under your bed, but there are two invisible beings sitting on your shoulder writing everything that you do. We teach them that if you don't say certain words, the shaitan will pee in your ear and your food and all that crazy, crazy stuff. And we just consider that to be not abusive somehow. And it hits some of us harder than others, especially those who are vulnerable to it. Um, yeah, I'm really sorry for everyone going through this, and I'll always try to do better to fight this. So hopefully, the future generations don't have to go through this kind of stuff again. All right, I will be taking the next caller. The next caller is Rubin. Rubin, I'm adding you to the stream in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Aladdin. How are you, man?
I
Thanks for
am
taking
good.
me in. I'm good. I'm doing good, man.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
mean,
what
it's
would
my
you like to
first
talk
time
about
over
today?
here.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. Thank you. So like, it's my first time over here, and thanks for taking me in again. And I mean, I'm really happy and sad in a way that I left this religion, and sad because like when you leave Islam, it's not that you only leave Islam, you leave your old self. And Islam for me, it was all that I knew. It was more than my family, my life. And I mean, there is a certain void that you feel after you leave something that was like Islam was more than 90% of my personality, if I could say that. And I mean, there's a huge void. And I'm not an atheist, by the way, I'm agnostic. I believe there is something. And the last sister who joined in, she said that Allah is not a good God. And what I thought about it was that Allah is not a good interpretation of God. I mean, there has to be a higher power, and I think Islam has made many people atheists. Islam claims to make people religious, but most of the people on the planet are atheists because of Islam. Because atheists say that they don't like the violence that is propagated by religion, but they don't mention that most of the deaths have been caused by Islam, and most of the terrorists in the world claim to be the followers of the religion of Islam. So I think that yes, sir. You want to say something, brother?
Um, yeah, I was thinking about something you said. You said that, and I'm paraphrasing here possibly,
Yes.
that atheism is kind of caused mostly by Islam because people don't believe in Islam and therefore they become atheists. But don't you think that it's bigger than just Islam?
1,000%. Listen, there. I mean, there are possibilities, but like, for example, like I had a friend, and she said to me that like Osama bin Laden, the guy he killed like 4,000, 5,000 people like in a single day, or like throughout his life more than that, but a rough estimate. And this guy he prayed 7 times a day. So I mean, if that guy believes in Allah, then I don't want that to be my God. And she was right in a way.
5 times a day, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just think about it. He used to, no, he not 5 times, 7 times. He used to pray 7 times, and Osama used to fast 2 times a week, on Juma and Saturday. So just think about it. I mean, of course, if someone like who's searching for a good God, and someone searching for a good religion, and if a person like comes to know about it, of course, the person's going to leave that religion or be atheist in a way. Even I was atheist, but then I realized that just because I had a bad experience doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. I mean, you know,
Wait, I'm still hung up on the prayers. Why does he pray 7 times?
I don't know, but I saw a documentary. It said 7 times. 1,000% he used to pray 7 times, not the 5 times, not Fajr, Sahur,
Mm.
not. Yeah, of course, the regular 5 times, but even two more.
Mm. I would have to disagree with you there that it's it's Islam that's causing like atheism, or that
Uh-huh.
another religion would explain God better, or it explains God in a way that Islam only fails to do. So what do you think that religion would be?
I don't think there's a perfect religion. I mean, I think religion is made by humans like us, mostly men, and throughout ages, every religion has been modified to suit the needs of the certain time. That's what I think. I don't think no religion really came down. Like, for example, let's say the belief is that Quran, like Allah gave Quran to the last prophet and all of that. I don't believe in that. I mean, everything is made by humans, and I mean, for example, let's say any other religion, man. I mean, yeah, there could be like highly intelligent people, but nothing came truly in the form of God. That's what I think.
I'm curious then, what makes you very certain of God's existence?
Ah, I mean, I have so like couple of experiences that I mean solidified my belief in the existence of a superior or a higher power.
Um, and okay, so you define God as a superior, higher power. Then, um, do you care to share one of those experiences with us?
I mean, it's like extremely intimate to me. I mean, I could talk backstage, but right now I
Okay,
don't think I'm comfortable.
that's okay. You don't have to.
Thank you very
Um,
much.
that's okay. Well, then I'm curious. What does your belief in God? How does it affect your day-to-day life?
1,000%. Like I think any person without the presence of a superior or a higher power, the person will feel depressed without having see every person, every human being needs a certain ideological framework or a religious framework to fall upon. And if the person does not have it, just a matter of time, like the person will be depressed. I mean, in my experience, and uh, what I've seen with people, and even personally with me, I think every person, every human being needs a certain ideological framework, or let's say a certain religion that suits the person's own needs. Now, I'm not saying to follow some like an already existing religion, but I mean, you can choose what you like. Like, I'm not saying that everything about religion is bad. Like, some things could be nice. For example, giving charity or like meditation. I mean,
What makes you so certain that what you have seen in your experience applies to every human?
that's what I'm saying, because every person has not experienced what I've experienced. And even I was an atheist, but like, as I'm saying, like, I experienced some things that was like, like it was as real as we are talking right now. I mean,
Right, but you had said that because of what you've experienced, you
uh huh,
think that every human
yes.
needs a religion to belong to, or else they would be depressed. But what makes you so confident that what you've experienced, or even what you've seen some of your friends or people around you experience,
Hmm.
applies to every single person?
It doesn't. That's what no, I mean, yeah, you're right in that way. I'm not saying that to every
Mm-hmm.
person, but I mean, if someone's an atheist, but at the same time, if the person's a good human being, you know what I mean, then I don't think I have a problem with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with people believing in God either. I'm always curious about how it affects their day-to-day life, and if it gives them purpose, then so be it. As long as it doesn't cause them or other people harm, then uh, live your life.
exactly, 1,000%,
Mhm.
1,000%. And
Well, does it bother you not knowing the specifics of God?
yeah, man, I wish if there was a true religion, and I mean, I mean, if God came down on earth and told us this is the right way, and this is the wrong way, I mean, I need some instructions, you know. I think as human beings, we all need instructions. Uh, and I don't think we have the right instructions as for now, and I wish we had the right instructions.
Do you think that's ever going to happen in humanity's lifetime? Are you there?
Oh yeah, yeah. I uh, I think there was a connection issue. I'm sorry.
No worries. Do
Sorry.
you think it'll happen in humanity's lifetime that there will be a reveal of who God is or more clarity about it?
I think like in I don't know, but I think in a decade's time or a millennia would be too much. But like let's say in the next 40 to 50 years, because like if you see like after Woodstock till now, like in the last let's say 2 or 3 generations, like there has been a excessive use of psychedelics, and people know. I mean, people have opened their eyes to what to how the world functions, to media, and the lies portrayed by the government. And I think there is going to be a significant spiritual change and in the way that the world operates. And it will take like at least a couple of more generations, but I think that there will be a significant spiritual change, and I think the world's going to change in like the way no one has seen before. That's what I think.
So you think that people using psychedelic substances is gonna bring them closer to the truth of God?
Yes, 1,000%. Because psychedelics is, I would say that it's the closest way to truth. I mean, and it is real because I mean, I could talk about religion, I could talk about my experiences, but as unless and until it has happened to you personally, I mean, I don't think that any person's going to learn from it. And I think psychedelics is the way to go. But I mean, and psychedelics is not for everyone. And I would recommend it to people who are not financially independent or who are underage. You know what I mean? I mean, there are certain rules that you should follow, but I think like the responsible use of psychedelics, I mean, even one successful psychedelic experience is enough to make change. And I do understand that psychedelics is not for everyone. And I do understand there's a certain age and there's a certain time. But if you really, if you can really sacrifice everything to find the truth, I mean, then I think that psychedelics may be the way for you or to any person.
Well, I got to make it clear, obviously, for the live stream, I do not endorse the use of illegal drugs or
Same.
anything. Um, but I want to explore that for a second. So we know that psychedelics are uh, mind altering, and they make you see the stimulus around you differently, right? It affects how your brain thinks. How does that make you trust your brain more to find the truth, not less?
You talk about psychedelics, right?
Yeah, if you know that they cause interference in how your brain would think in with usual clarity, how do you trust the information that you're getting or the conclusions that you're getting more when you're under the influence?
Mm. So I mean, it's common sense, right? Like I know what's good. I mean, I know what's the truth and what's not. And I mean, I think psychedelics for me, I mean, psychedelics dissolves boundaries in the first place. And I mean, that's as real as you can get to to the superior power. And I mean, the best thing is that I mean, there's no risk of losing your life. I mean, when I talk about, let's say,
That's not necessarily true, by the
no,
way.
no, no. I mean, I don't want to name the drug, but for example, let's say, just name of any person who has died from an overdose of LSD. And again, I don't recommend any illegal substances, but
Just because I can't name them, no,
I
there
mean, yeah,
are,
listen. I mean,
and there's also a
uh,
lot to be said about like these drugs triggering underlying or causing conditions like you know uh, hallucinations that last with you longer than just the trip, schizophrenia, things like that.
yeah, yeah,
um I just want to like I'm not here to change your mind about it,
yes.
but I just want to make it clear that I really don't think that like mind altering substances would bring you closer to the truth or kind of break you free in a sense. I don't believe that.
I mean, like in my experience, like for example, like I won't name, but one of my friends, like I mean, I mean, this is really interesting because he became like he was at a dark position in his life and he took psychedelics, and he went in a rabbit hole of, let's say, of like darker things. But eventually he had a successful trip, and I mean now he's out of it, and now he's living the best life. You know what I mean? So that's like we can like literally debate about it, but that's all I want to say. I mean, irresponsible use of psychedelics, and I'm not saying that uh, you should use it often. Like all I'm saying is that even one successful trip is enough. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think it's like I think I wouldn't even recommend that anyone try it because I think there is a lot of research to be done. It could be used in a certain medical way, possibly, but
Hmm.
we're not yet at a point where we can do that safely, or at least as far as I know, not on a large scale. And maybe in that case, it would help you, for example, to put a kind of put a barrier between you and certain trauma to process it better, maybe, or
Hmm.
to, kind of disconnect your emotional reaction to certain things that you don't want to approach in your head, and that would help you go through them. There are
Hmm.
ways that it might help that way. I don't know if it I don't think it brings you any, or it wouldn't bring me any closer to the truth about God. If anything, it would make me more paranoid that my realizations or hallucinations or whatever, um, are just that, are because of the confusion, because of the drug, rather than the truth of God.
Hmm.
Yeah. But as long as you're not harming anyone or yourself, yeah. By the way, a bunch of people have been asking me, or maybe a couple of people, um, do you believe in Jesus Christ? Is there something about that on your channel?
I mean, we can talk about it backstage though, and I'm not saying like I have slight biblical inclination, I would say so, but I don't think that every that like I have read every single book like of the major religions, and I have found stuff that I don't agree with 1,000%. But I mean, I won't call myself like a Christian. You know what I mean? But yeah, there are certain things like certain principles that I take inspiration from, I could say.
Um, I'm going to ask this very directly.
Oh yeah,
Is that like, do you find this inspiration in biblical ideas more easily palpable than Islamic ones, because their representative Jesus Christ is not as controversial of a person as Muhammad?
1,000%, 1,000%. I would agree with you 1,000%. Because, like, for example, let's say, like, there is like this concept of Leela. Leela is, I think, it's a Sanskrit word. So in Islam, there's no such thing as Leela, and meditation is banned, by the way. So I mean, by the Islamic law, and there's no way for like there's no scope for spiritual uh like spirit what should I say, like for your spiritual development, it's like strict religion. And I think that is kind of boring for me. I mean, because like your spiritual way, like everyone has a different way, like everyone has a way to find their higher purpose or to meet with their higher self. But in Islam, the only way to find your higher self is to pray 5 times a day, and that's ridiculous as for me, like when I think about it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, some people do find Islamic prayer to be meditative.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not sure of any like restrictions on meditation, unless they're tied to some
Chanting
Hindu
mantras.
rituals, or
Yeah, yeah,
chant,
yeah.
yeah,
Exactly
stuff like
right.
that. I can totally see that being ruled out as some kind of religious ritual that you're not supposed to do. Um, but
But
I never really found spiritualism in Islam, and I don't know if I'll ever find spiritualism in that sense. But I've heard.
there is a sect. I would like to. There is a sect. So
Mm,
as we all know, like there are different sects, right? Like Sunni, Shia, Wahhabi, Salafi. I mean, there are other sects. But there's one sect that has a slight spiritual inclination, but like the religious leaders have banned the sect. You know what I mean? So, I mean, because I mean, if even if you claim to be a Muslim and you follow that sect, I mean, you're worse than an infidel. You know, right? It's Sufism, by the way.
I mean, people disagree about whether Sufism is its own sect, or like sometimes they call themselves Sunni with just a mystical twist, I guess. Um, yeah. Well, Anyway, point is, I hope that whatever beliefs you have and have in the future are good for you and people around you.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I appreciate it, and thanks for letting me in. I'll join again in the future. Thank you very much. So nice
Sounds
of you.
good. Have a good
Cheers.
rest of your day.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Sorry, I didn't mean to add you just yet. We still have a few more callers, and if you'd like to join, link is pinned to the live chat. But I'll read a few comments before I get to the next caller. So, I'm not sure exactly what this is about. So, what do you think about Sam Harris or the way the Western media is talking about Islam and Muslims? I mean, the more racist side of it, because they damn our activism, right? So, I'm not sure which exactly media or narrative you're talking about. It depends on who you're watching. Um, I'm seeing a lot of guardedness in the media about talking about anything Islamic, but also there are people on typically, I mean, it depends on where you are, but typically more conservative, more right wing, probably more affiliated with another religion kind of media that would be talking very unfavorably about Islam and not necessarily Islam, but about Muslims. And I don't think they ever really do justice to, they don't really take the same tone that we're trying to take, and they don't always have the same intentions that we have. I don't think they're helping us at all. That's for sure. Sam Harris, I'm not familiar with a lot of his work, but some of what I've seen, he seems to pin so much on Islam alone rather than what I think is more like the human condition and Islam kind of playing on that or enabling it. So Islam is just a placeholder for some kind of religion or ideology that would do that. Um, he seems to portray it as the root of evil almost. I may be off in this assessment. Again, I don't watch a lot of his stuff or read a lot of his books. I did read his book about free will, and to a large extent, I feel like I agree with what he says in that book. But aside from that, I'm not very familiar with what he does. I would hope that the loudest voices talking about Islam in the future in a critical way would be people who are more familiar with it intimately rather than just those who are outside analyzing it or just calling the danger of it, because there's more to it than just this scaremongering idea that um, they're here to take over your land. That's not the narrative that we are promoting here. That's not what we're trying to speak about. There are situations where people are alarmed about the influence of Islam in their community, but as a general kind of trend, that's not where we're headed with this conversation. Anyway, I don't know if that answers it, but I hope it does. I'll take a few more comments and I'll get to the next caller. Oh, thank you very much, Kryptonite Flame, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Yeah, the next comment. Aladdin, my best friend in the world is a Muslim and he struggled his whole life with his queerness and the religion, and I think it's getting worse for him and I don't know what to do to help him. I'm really sorry that your friend is going through this, and it must be difficult to watch him go through it and feel like there's little or whatever you do is not necessarily doing it for your friend. I think it's partly a personal journey that he has to go through. I personally don't think that there is space for Islam and queerness to coexist. Like, crucify me for that, but I really don't think that's ever a possibility. There are a lot of people who try to make that a possibility. There are people who try to stretch certain hadith that try to or dismiss certain things in Islam to try to make it seem like Islam never condemned gay people. It's just misinterpretations of Islam. I think that's a losing battle, and I think it's to me a worthless battle because Islam is not true. So I think it's kind of a waste of time to try to make these things coexist. I would suggest it's not something that you can force your friend into. It's something that he needs to look into. The best way to get over that is to dismantle the belief in the religion itself. When he realizes that the religion is not true, he's still going to have a lot of obstacles to go through. There's still a lot of deep-seated um, possibly self-hate over. I'm not trying to diagnose your friend or anything. I don't know them, but the typical case is there's going to be negative feelings about yourself, about all these things that you're taught about gay people, self-denial, a lot of such themes, which perhaps therapy could help with in the future. But I think a very important step is getting out of the belief. There is no room for recovery for gay people to exist in Islam unless they adopt some kind of very watered down, different version of Islam than the mainstream ones. And I don't know how sustainable that is. However, I don't get in the way of people who are trying to do that. It's not like I'm going out there and fighting with queer Muslims and telling them this is not true and how dare you say that. More power to you if you're able to make it work for yourself. But I think more often than not, it's not sustainable. So I hope that your friend is able to tackle these issues. Be there for them to listen. Don't try to push them in a certain direction if they're not comfortable. Uh, don't make every conversation about, so, you need to get out of Islam because that's the only way out. Just try to listen to them, tell them that what they feel is valid, tell them that their fears are valid, but that the reasons for their fears should be looked into. I hope that helps. So a couple more comments. Some people have suggested more books by Sam Harris. I'll check them out. Thank you for the suggestions. I'll check them out later. All right. So there are some more interesting comments, but I'll have to get to the next caller. We've got a bunch of callers now and some people joining and leaving. All right. The next caller is, let's see. Next caller is gone. Azri, I'm going to take Azri's call. You have been on the channel before, so I will take your call, but then we'll try to keep it not too long so I can get to the other callers afterwards. So, Azri, if you're ready, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
Fine. How's your day?
It's pretty good so far. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Firstly, I was listening to Sultan, right? And I also suffer from schizophrenia. My case is a bit different because I suffer from depression. So I try to find different knowledge and perspectives to counter depression. Therefore, I suggest to Sultan to maybe to read the book or something to give a perspective and knowledge to defend yourself, something like that. Okay. Anyway, you seem to not get any Muslim scholars in your previous live stream.
Yeah, it was my first live stream in a couple of months, so I didn't get a lot of traction there. I think other platforms are better for reaching for reaching an audience that doesn't usually watch me, like TikTok, for example. But unfortunately, I'm not there anymore. But hopefully, the next stream will have more Muslim callers.
So you do not want to restart your TikTok career or something.
I don't think so at the moment. It's too much of a headache. Like I always get mass reported by. There are Muslims who have groups dedicated to mass reporting ex-Muslim content creators. So, yeah, not sure if I'm going back there for a while.
Okay. I tried posting content on TikTok, and it seems that TikTok recommends more of my videos than YouTube does. So it's quite a shame that you are banned in TikTok.
Yeah, I've made like 5 accounts at least. So maybe I'll be back someday. Maybe I'll be back under a different name. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll get there when we get there.
Okay. Now I want to talk about how I know you. Firstly, I cannot remember very well, but at that time I was going through videos made by Infidel Noodle. So I also think someone in Apostate Prophets community was talking about you. Therefore, I came to learn you, Apostate Aladdin. So how I know you is mainly through the non-Muslim community, of course. Okay.
I'm glad you
Anyway,
came across my channel there.
yeah. Anyway, I have a few things I want to share. Firstly, I am an ex-Muslim, but I feel like I have been a non-believer throughout my entire life, because I had never asked God from I had never asked from God anything, with the exception of forgiveness. When I was still a Muslim, I felt this guilt and shame for looking at women. women who are doing weird things, if you know what I mean. Okay. But then I
Weird
slowly
things like what, if you don't mind?
I don't want to share it. Weird things.
Okay.
Do you understand that they unclothe themselves?
Uh, unclothe themselves like in public, or I don't understand.
And then they make videos about it.
Okay, okay. So I guess
Okay.
more pornographic material, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry to say. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay. I was asking forgiveness from God whenever I watch those kind of videos, right? But then I slowly become atheist and I stopped feeling any guilt. So I feel like I don't know how to say it. Okay. Okay. Other than asking forgiveness, I don't ask God for anything in my life. So I feel a bit guilty that I had never been a believer. Uh, what about you? You have been in the past. You always ask God, right?
Wait. Before we get to that, I just have to warn you that pornography is not always healthy. So keep that in mind. Even if you've removed the guilt part out of it, just be careful that it's easy to get addicted to something like that. And just giving you a heads up. You were asking me. Sorry, you were asking me. Did I believe in God before?
Did you you probably unlike me, you ask for God, you pray from God, you ask from him things, right?
Yeah, I did pray to God a lot. Yeah. You're saying you didn't when you were a believer? You're never really believed when you're a Muslim?
Yeah, I never really believe. But I did ask forgiveness for the women videos, right? So, but I never asked from God anything. Therefore, I feel a bit ashamed. I don't know how to, or maybe shame. Yeah, I don't know whether to say I was ever a believer. So something like that.
Interesting. So why did you have shame and ask for forgiveness if you did not believe in God?
Uh, why did I feel shame? Because I listen to you. I listen to people, to your people who get depressed, people who get mental problems, right? They all ask God. They all ask for was seeking God, but I never did. Therefore, I feel like kind of regretful, maybe. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but what made you feel ashamed, or what made you, if you didn't believe in God at the time, uh, why would you ask God for forgiveness?
Uh, uh, well, I did believe. That's a bit complicated, but my point is that I never asked for God anything. That's my point.
Hmm.
But I did only ask forgiveness. That's all.
Interesting. So the only things that you asked for God were for Him to spare you, basically.
Yes, yes.
Huh. And
Okay.
what do you think that means, or does that mean anything to you?
Uh, uh, what does it mean? Can you explain?
Like, is there a reason for why you only asked God for forgiveness and not for other things?
Maybe because I'm content with my life. Maybe because unlike other people, I do not suffer that much. That's what maybe the reason I feel guilty, because I do not suffer that much from other people. I feel kind of blessed. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, how do you feel now that you don't believe in God anymore? Do you still feel blessed?
Yes. Yes. I still I believe I'm blessed. I Yes, especially when I said earlier about mental problems, right? I study and learn. I try to find different perspectives in knowledge, in books. So whenever depression came to me, says I'm a loser or something else like that, I feel like maybe it's not like this. Maybe money is a problem, or maybe something like that. So I feel like kind of blessed. I don't feel depressed that much, but I want to help others as well. Okay.
That's a good outlook on life.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make this so long. I have a few more points I want to share with you.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Even though I don't believe God exists right now, but I'm interested in studying religion, the good things about it, and also the bad and faulty things about it. Okay. Uh, one faulty thing that I recently found about religion is the question how many times a Muslim should perform salat in a day. Okay. In Sahih Bukhari Hadith Volume 1, Book 3, number 63, narrated by Anas bin Malik, that this man came to the Prophet and asked about the Prophet some question. So he came to the question, did Allah order you to pray 5 times a day? And Muhammad replied, yes, I swear by Allah. But the problem with this hadith is when we go to the Quran never mentioned to pray 5 times a day. Instead, generally, everyone agrees that the Quran says to perform salat 3 times a day. Therefore, I came to the conclusion that either Allah deceives Muhammad into praying 5 times a day, or Muhammad is a liar, because both cannot be correct. This is one of the faults that I recently discovered. So, what do you think?
I've come across that before. I think it doesn't surprise me in many ways because there are a lot of things that are mentioned in the hadith that are not mentioned in the Quran, or maybe vice versa. But I'm kind of desensitized or used to this kind of inconsistency in Islam. So I'm thinking about a video about the way in which Allah told Muhammad to pray 5 times a day. There's a whole story. There's a hadith behind that. But it brings up a problem with Islam. Do you trust the hadith more or the Quran? Because if you just go by the Quran, there's a lot of things that are not mentioned there. So yeah, but it's not like a huge damning problem to me. Like there's a lot bigger problems in Islam that I notice.
To me, I find it problematic for Muslims. They should address this. How are they gonna address this? Whether Allah is a deceiver or Muhammad is a liar, what will they trust in the end? It's a question I like to ask Muslims. That's it. Okay.
I don't think
Okay.
a lot of people would think about this too deeply. They would just think that tradition and learning from our parents and the hadith has taught us that it's 5 times. So Allah mentioning only 3 doesn't mean that there's only 3. There might be other 2 that he didn't mention in the Quran, which is still fine. So yeah. It's not really a believer wouldn't look at this with a very critical, skeptical mind. So I don't know if it'll be a big problem.
Okay. Then let's move on to my last point. My short, just one short point. Another thing I find faulty is about money. Muslims tend to say Allahu Akbar, Allah is great, Allah is the most special to them, Allah is the most important. But the fact is, I believe the majority of Muslims value money more than Allah because they work for something else besides religion. I believe they are lying to themselves, saying Allah is the most important thing to them. I believe money is the most important thing. So what do you think?
I wouldn't make a generalization like that because I think all humans on Earth, I think, or a majority of humans on Earth have money on their mind because it is the currency that they need to live. If there was another way, if it was about bartering only, then people would think about grain or whatever it is that they're manufacturing or growing. So it's our survival kicks in first. I think we shouldn't fault humans for thinking about how they should survive. And yeah, a lot of people go overboard with it. A lot of people are greedy. But then Islam also tells you, one can argue, Islam says, don't be greedy, be generous, don't don't be like the miser who counts his money. So people have always recognized the problems with greed. I wouldn't fault believers for that specifically. And I don't expect believers to be absolutely consistent about everything in Islam because it is a very difficult life to live it to the Islamic standards to the T. Everyone would be, it's very difficult to go through that. So it's fine if people are focused on surviving.
But to me, it's still a problem. It's not the truth because they say Allah is great, Allah is the most special to them, but it's not the truth that they consider that. They consider money more important. Like I asked my mom about that. She says, "What are you gonna eat?" Of course, she's right, but still, Allah is second place. I just want Muslim to admit that money is the most important thing.
Well,
That's all.
what would achieve if they admit that to you, or like what would that kind of conversation achieve?
Well, the truth at least. I like truth. So I like Muslim to be truthful with themselves. So yeah, at least they do not lie to themselves, saying Allah is the greatest, but money is the most important thing. Uh, I don't get anything from it, but for a person who likes truth, maybe as the truth prevails, it's a good thing. I kind of like it. Okay, that's all.
Do you apply that? Do you apply that same level of scrutiny to the truth in your life, or to are you being consistent about everything in your life?
Yes, I even admit to my parents that I am an ex-Muslim, even though I might get kicked out of the house, uh, or or they will never talk to me again, because I want to be truthful with them. But not being truthful is not that it's not possible. But I guess it's normal not be able to be completely truthful. But I try my best, of course.
I try to be consistent first, and it's impossible, obviously, to hold myself to those standards. But in doing that, I realize that I need to be less. I need to scrutinize others less about their inconsistencies, because it's easier to point it out in other people than it is in yourself, right? So I would suggest that you keep applying that level of scrutiny to your own life in a good way, not to a point that harms your mental health, but always try to be true to yourself, and maybe seek the truth when it matters, when it has a bigger effect on people, right? Like that kind of admission, having someone admit that they care about money more than Allah at the moment, might make them, if they get to the point of admitting that, might make them feel bad. And then you end up with someone who praised themselves into homelessness because they don't want to feel guilty about forgetting Allah or prioritizing money over Allah. So it doesn't eventually help them at all, right?
Okay. So you're saying that I should help them. Okay.
Or
Okay.
at least try to, in your pursuit of truth, try to prioritize what is going to cause people least harm or has benefit, of the truth appearing. How's it going to help people? So certain arguments like that, I find, maybe won't really benefit anyone, even if they do admit, yeah, I've been prioritizing this life, this dunya, as they say, or prioritizing surviving or money more than God, because that might have negative consequences on them.
Okay. That's all for me. Okay. Good. Good night. Good evening. I don't know where you are right now. Okay. Okay. Good day, Apostate Aladdin.
Thanks, and have a great rest of your day as well.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining, Azri. I am going to take a couple comments, and then I'll get to the next caller. So let's see. So Jojo Freelancer says, I want people to leave Islam without hate on Islam. Hassan Adwan and Video Vids do great work on that. I think hate on Islam is a very generic way of putting it, because I don't like the idea of hate very much, because it's draining. I don't really hate Islam. It's not a person to hate, and I don't think it's productive for me to hate. I recognize the harm that it can cause. I recognize the good that it causes to some people, or the good things that it might cause, but I also recognize the bad things. And if I were to hate it, it would get in the way of me being able to pointing out the bad things or helping those who are struggling with it. So I wouldn't really use the word hate with it. However, it doesn't mean that I like it or I'm neutral towards it. And it's okay to hate, I think. If you're someone who's been harmed by it, for example, it's okay to have negative feelings about Islam. It's okay to hate it. It's okay to point out how obviously horrible the situation was that you went through or other people go through. I think it's having a more level-headed approach to it helps people be more receptive. If your goal is for the person on the other side to hear you out, then of course, when you're more level-headed, they're more likely to hear you. But it also doesn't mean kind of always meeting people halfway or just conceding or the kind of there's bad people on both sides approach. That's not necessarily how you should do it. I think you should follow the truth, but also you could have an approach that's more aggressive about pointing out how you feel about Islam, and it might be helpful to those who have been harmed by it a lot. Maybe that's your audience. So I try to focus on what I can do, and hopefully I'm hitting the right balance. Let's see, who is the next commenter? All right. Yeah. So I've been getting a lot of suggestions that I join a bunch of other ex-Muslims online. I will pin this comment, or I will try to remember to reach out to some of these people or check out their channels first and see what they're about. I'm very notoriously bad at doing collaborations or anything of the sort. I just can't keep up with things. And I like to make sure that I know exactly what I'm getting out of such a collaboration, what the audience is getting out of it. So I haven't had enough time to dig into a lot of these other content creators. But yeah, the next caller is Amin. Amin is not here. Got a lot of people dropping off the calls. Raiken is the next caller. Raiken, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Well, it's kind of interesting, I would say the least. I'm in Saudi Arabia right now, and I'm using a VPN to talk. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of been rather shocking. Ever since, I've been here, a lot of the stuff that I've seen, especially in regards to the abaya, right? And the hijab system. I kind of ended up with more, I would say, realizations regarding how brutal it is, right? Because a lot of people in the West, they don't really understand the harms of the hijab system, I'd say, fully, right? And what I've noticed is that the hijab system, kind of like how in the Holocaust, for the Jews, you would have the star to differentiate easily, oh, that's a Jewish person. That's how the hijab kind of acts, or like the abaya in Saudi Arabia. Like the moment, like in order to differentiate between a man and a woman, all you have to do is just tell, oh, is she wearing a scarf? Are they in a abaya? Bam, you know the difference. And you know what category they're supposed to fit in, what actions they're allowed to do, what actions they're not allowed to do. And it's quite dehumanizing, because even in my own family, there are lots of these sentiments that, oh, guys are supposed to be like this, or men are this way, and women are that way, as though it's like a inherently biological, biologically programmed system. Some of these patterns, which they aren't, right? But there's that.
Well, I just got to say, we have to be careful with an analogy like that because, of course, though the women do struggle a lot in these communities,
Yeah.
it is not the same as,
Oh,
extermination
of
of
course,
a
of course,
race.
of course, of
Yeah.
course. 100% agree.
Yeah.
I just meant in the sense that it's easy to, like, the way you can kind of pinpoint a target, sort of a thing, and that's
Mhm.
sort of an aspect that you classify women as an entirely different class of citizen. That's the thing, right? And to be honest, like, watching all these people on abaya just walking around and doing all that sort of stuff, it's made me feel super anxious and disgusted. And a lot of times over here, I pretend to go to Friday prayer, but in reality, I'm just walking outside. And luckily, I haven't gotten into any trouble with that. But as I'm hearing everyone, the first time I actually like did that, like, I was just walking on the road, and during the Friday prayer over here, it was a very surreal experience for me, because over here they like announce all the, the azan and the khutbahs and everything on loudspeakers, so you can hear them on the road, right? And in every direction I could turn, there would be some masjid chanting something in Arabic. And it was this feeling that, every direction that I turned to, there are a group of people, if they knew what I really believed in, they would want me dead. It was a very surreal experience, that sort of a thing. Um, because it's not really normal. You're just walking on the street and you're just thinking that, oh, if they knew what I was and what I believed in, every person on this road would either hate me, scream at me, cuss me out, or in some cases would want me dead. Um, and to be honest, even as I'm saying this out loud, it's yeah, it's like it's something that I don't think a lot of people understand. It's something that, especially in the West, it's so frustrating when all of them, because again, any sort of criticism, like we had this conversation before as well, when it came to, if you want to try to criticize the religion, um, you can't, because everyone's going to call you an Islamophobe. And the thing is, they don't understand that, if you're anything but a Muslim in a Muslim country, it genuinely feels like you're in a horror game, or just this feeling of paranoia that at any moment, if anyone finds out, everything you have, your entire life is gone. You were gone. And people just don't understand the gravity of it. They genuinely don't.
And to clarify, you mean there are people who are non-Muslim but are established as already non-Muslim. That's a different case than someone who is Muslim and, or sorry, or was born Muslim or was Muslim and is now something else or not a believer.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I'm sure a lot of Christians or maybe Hindus in some area, they feel like people around them know that they're a different religion and that's fine and they get along. But it's
No,
that
not
idea
really.
that
Not really. I would disagree with that, because they face a different kind of discrimination, right? I used to have. There was this one moment in my high school, and at that time I was still Muslim, and there was this kid from India who joined our school, and his family were Hindus. People used to make fun of him. He used to be bullied for it. So um, it's a different flavor of discrimination. It's not as lethal, it's not as dangerous, and it's not as deadly, but there is discrimination even against them. Unless you're a white person, unless you're American or European, for Americans, Europeans, they'll worship you over here. But deep down inside, they will hate you. Because again, these are sentiments that I've heard from my own family, right? From my own sibling has said that, oh, America is great and all. Like, no, no, like America's got lots of problems, and one of the main ones that she listed was that it's a non-Muslim country. And it was the first one, as though, oh, like crime rates or any of that is not an issue, but the fact that they're non-Muslim, that's a bigger issue than everything else. Um, and I mean, again, people just don't realize the Middle East is an entirely different world than whatever you've got out there. What you've got in the West, they're like, they just look at those Muslims that they think that, all Muslims are. No. My own family members, I've heard them say that, randomly the discussion of the Holocaust got brought up, and they started supporting Hitler because they were like, oh, he was just getting rid of the Jews, and the Jews are evil, just like Allah said. And this is coming from my own blood relatives, and I just have to sit there and smile, even though I completely disagree with it, and it's abhorrent. But the thing is, to all of the other people out there, they don't know this. They don't know that, about all of this messed up dark underbelly. Like in another instance is this whole religious, this extreme need to value elders to the point that the whatever the elders say is law. It doesn't, like, even if you're right, just because you're younger, screw you. It doesn't matter what you said is right or wrong. um my own brother-in-law literally said that he would not let his daughters tell him that, oh, they know better than him, as though it's something that he will make sure that never happens by any means possible. I've got friends who are relatively decent people in all stances in most cases, but they're willing to beat their own kids if they end up being gay, physically beat. And these are normal people. These are people you would see on the street and you would see, think that they're normal. They're not, inherently violent people. They're not, if the
They're
same
not like a weird exception. Like they're not.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, like the relative who was pro Hitler, right? Um, in any other situation, if you were to if you were to show them a clip of someone in, or even if a person is even slightly distressed, that particular relative will try to make sure to help them out on the streets, right?
Hmm.
But that same person would be okay with something as horrifying as the Holocaust. And it is something that people don't understand, why us ex-Muslims at times get, so obsessed with the thing, why we keep talking about it, because we get to see the real horror story behind it. I don't even like classifying Islam as a religion, it is a cult.
Everything you said, I personally relate to. I've experienced myself, and it is not some kind of uncommonly, it's like when people think of the very, very obsessively Christian minority in the US, for example,
Yeah,
the people who are overboard with it, as some people would
yeah.
think, those who have very weird gender roles, those who almost seem like they belong to some kind of fringe cult, they think, yeah, that's weird, but Christians are not like that, or that's not what Christianity is like. They think the same kind of ideas about Islam, but they don't realize how prevalent a lot of these things are. I've experienced everything you've mentioned here.
I'm sure many of the people who are even listening in the comment section, they would have experienced as well. And it becomes frustrating because anyone, like, for example, a person like me, right? If I want to leave the country that I'm in, there aren't any special, programs for people like me.
Mm.
And we're in genuine danger. And the thing that frustrates me is that a lot of times you'll see news reports of some psycho extremist Muslim, or some person who looks like me, has the same nationality as me, doing something crazy abroad in a Western country, and you're just thinking, why does he get the chance and why can't I be there instead?
Hmm.
And it's that feeling that, if only you people were open your eyes to this thing, but most people just don't want to have that conversation. Because again, um, a lot of the cruelty that parents will inflict upon their own children. Another thing, this is something that I really want to bring out, before, like, you move to the next caller.
Take
So,
your time.
when I was, my niece is over here, right? And my sister told me to read a storybook for her, right? And it was an Islamic storybook, and I didn't know about that initially, right? And the storybook kind of went like, oh, whether you're playing in the fields or whether you're hiding in the bed or whether you're playing with your friends, Allah is always watching you. As I was reading the book, I felt like blood was draining out of my face while my niece is just happily looking at it and my sister just smiling. Because each and every time it just kept repeating the phrase that Allah is always watching you. If under any circumstance, if I were to tell someone, yo, this person's always watching you, this person, no matter where you are, no matter how secure you think you are, he's watching you and listening to everything you do, I don't think anyone would consider that as a good thing. But this is a children's storybook. And the most messed up thing is, I have to just smile and act like it's a good thing. I have to watch another generation probably get screwed over in a completely different flavor. Because if I speak, I will be deemed the monster.
Mhm.
And it
You-
hurts so much because she's got 2 daughters. And we all know what hell girls have to go through in this religion.
a lot of this smiling and nodding along to these kind of stories, even by the adults, they don't realize how much subconsciously that harms them and how much that then they perpetuate that going forward.
Yeah.
It took me years to realize how much anxiety and fear I held, even after not believing in Allah anymore, just because of this concept that every single thought is being monitored and you have to justify it on the day of judgment.
Yeah. And the thing is that, no matter how right you are, no matter how sane you are, and no matter how right your words are, nobody will believe you in these countries. Everyone will think you're the crazy person, that you're the misguided one.
Mhm. Even the ones who barely practice, they see you as the devil.
I mean, my own father, he has not prayed for over a decade, and he still wants me to pray 5 times a day
Mhm.
to save my soul. Again, the fact that so many people get stuck into such abhorrent marriages as well, marriages that they're completely destroyed in regards to, like, people consider divorce as some horrible disease, even though in reality it's just 2 people who were unhealthy for each other, realizing that they were unhealthy for each other, and separating.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be something that's a healthy process, but it's demonized. Any autonomy that a woman can have over their own outfits is demonized. Any autonomy that a woman can have is demonized in general. Again, my own sister, who is a woman, classifies men and women as entirely different species. She talks about them as though, you know, it's like you're talking about a computer and a car. Not as though, they're both humans. And again, the suffocating part is all I can do is just nod and smile silently. And half the time that I've been dying to come on this call is because, because I have to wear these different personalities and, always just act like someone else in front of them for so long that it feels like, the real me kind of starts fracturing away. And talking to some people, like over here or amongst my ex-Muslim friends, is kind of my way of regaining a bit of my sanity. I just hope that, someone out there, if they ever listen to all of this, they understand the truth of it. To be honest, at times it kind of feels like, um, in certain horror games, there are these audio logs that you can find here and there of survivors who, they're just about to die, and they just, like, there's an audio log of them talking about the disaster that's happening. At times it kind of feels like that's what this is.
I hope it's not that. I hope it's something that you can look back on and think
Mm.
things were horrible and now they're better.
I hope so too. I hope that these conversations that you have allow others to realize and allow others to walk a more empathetic, path with more empathy. Anyways, thank you for listening.
I hope that this was cathartic. I'm really sorry that you have to go through that every day, and
Yeah,
keep your personality there. Don't let it fracture away.
I'm trying my best. I mean, to be honest, like, I didn't, because again, when you pretend enough times, you kind of don't realize how much stuff is bottled up. Even as I was speaking, I didn't know that I would have been this emotionally. Um, I didn't think I would have been this emotionally charged about the conversation. I thought I would have been cool and calm as a cucumber, but then, yeah,
You were the right amount of charged and cool, because it's however you feel like. And you managed to be very coherent through it all. So don't even give it a second thought.
nah, fair. Most people would sound like they're, in a straitjacket, just rambling.
No,
But yeah,
no. You sound fine, and even if you sounded like you're in a straight jacket rambling, that's also fine. It's
Mm.
yeah. I don't want people to feel like they have to be extremely presentable or act a certain way for others to listen. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through, is what you're going through. So
Yeah.
we appreciate you sharing it in whichever way you can. And a lot of people already thank you for calling in. A lot of people in the comments, just the people watching live can relate and can empathize, and I'm sure thousands more will in the future.
I hope so. I just hope that the madness born out of all of this ends. Because again, it really, really hurts seeing so many innocent women just have to go through this humiliation. Anyways, I'll let you attend to the next caller. Thanks.
Thank you again for calling in, and happy to hear from you again.
Happy to talk again. Bye.
Take care.
You
Bye.
too.
Yeah, I just want to remind the caller, and I want to remind everyone that, not in a scary way, hopefully, his words are going to be heard by thousands of people. Hopefully, I know my streams have not been performing as well as they used to, and that's expected. But regardless, there's still thousands of people who are going to hear that story, and I hope that makes him and everyone here feel better. That it's productive. That it is, at first and foremost, for the benefit of the caller themselves. It's hopefully productive and cathartic, but it's even way beyond that. So thank you again to the caller. I will take the next caller now. We have a full queue, thankfully, so I'm not taking any more callers. I mean, aside from the ones already waiting in queue, which we have a bunch of them. So I'm getting to the next caller, which is Amin. Amin, if you're ready, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going? You are muted if you are there. If you're not there, that's fine. I will add you in.
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
I am good, thank you. What would you like to talk about today?
Hi,
Can you hear me?
can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think you're having an issue. We can hear
Yeah,
you
now
fine. Oh, now you can? Okay. I think Amin is having some connection issues. I'll go to the next caller, and then I will try you again, if that's okay. We'll be with Amin next. Now the next caller is Callie. Callie, I hope you are ready because you are next. I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, Callie, how's it going? Are you there? All right, maybe Callie is not ready. The next caller is Sunbal. By the way, yeah, I am gonna take the next caller, Sunbal. If you are ready, please let me know in the private chat. We've got a bunch of callers, but I bet they've been waiting for a while, so maybe they're not at their desk. I will take the next one now. Sunbal, I'm adding you. Oh, Amin is back. Hey, Amin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Well, welcome back.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, hi.
Yeah. So, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, yeah, I don't know how to talk like right now. Like, yeah, yeah, I will tell about myself. Yeah, I'm from India. I've been ex-Muslim for the past 2 years, and yeah, it was initially a bit hard for me, like leaving religion and all. But going forward, it's been pretty good. Yeah.
Well, tell me about it. How is it difficult, and how is it better now?
Yeah, initially, like I was like a hardcore believer, but not much, no, but not like too much fundamentalist type, but a bit believer. Like I considered God as a like my friend and all, and yeah, uh, it was like really nice having someone with me, and yeah, that was how my belief was then. And yeah, over time, like I was like fully believer, fully devoted most time. I prayed like 5 times a day, and yeah, and that and all those things. But that didn't mean like I was like not mingling with the opposite gender and only I was like in India it's pretty common for us like from the state I'm coming from, it's pretty common for us to like mingle. And Muslims here are also a bit progressive but not much in that sense. Yeah. And all the people near me maybe a bit, all the people around me a bit be maybe a bit progressive but not like that much. And yeah, it was right, like really nice. Then COVID struck. During that time I started using Twitter a lot, and I remember seeing you there, and you were like an enemy there. Like, yeah, that time you had that classic Aladdin DP, I suppose, during your initial days.
A
And
puss? No, that wasn't me.
no, it wasn't you. Like I thought it was you. Like that Disney Aladdin pic was there, so I
Oh,
thought,
yeah. That I might
yeah,
have had that at some point. Yeah.
yeah, during that initial time I did see you sometimes in my feed,
Mhm.
and I was a bit angry seeing people like you there. And you remember that time when Armin Nawabi's case came? Yeah, during that,
Mhm.
yeah, when he desecrated the Quran and all, and there was a huge uproar here as well, in India as well. And initially the Hindu nationalist was supporting him, and sometime later he drew a picture of Kali, like
Mhm.
he just posted a picture of Kali or something, and a huge thing happened. Like he has his own like arrest warrants and stuff, and FIRs were filed and all. During that time as well, I was a believer. And then when he desecrated the Quran and all, someone like during COVID I followed a lot of people in Twitter, especially from my state, and most of them were like progressive and also I really liked hanging around with them. And yeah, and my thought process also changed during that time. And sometimes like during that time one of the person was saying he may tear up the whole Quran and all, it doesn't matter, it's just a piece of paper. There are millions of people who are there are people who are memorizing it and all, so it doesn't matter. And I was like, yeah, it's correct. But a month later, I was like, and then I read Armin's story and all about his life story and all, and that made me think, why did that person leave Islam and all? But then I just forgot about it. Then a month later, I had my doubts. I read something somewhere, and then I was just going through stuff and about sex slavery and all. And then I became a bit doubtful. I went deep inside. Then I understood this is not good. And yeah, that's when it started coming out of me that I can't believe in this again. Yeah, the prophet was not a good person as I believed, and it made me like stray away from religion a bit. Initially, I think I started using like watched videos of ex-Muslims like Apostate, Prophet and all, but I didn't like it much. But then I found Hassan Radwan, yeah, and it was like really nice, and I really liked it. And as well as one more person was there, one masked Arab or something.
Hmm.
Yeah, and those channels I started watching, and then I there are like things that some of those doubts, yeah, I could understand. Yeah, it's doubtful, and then yes, soon later I became an ex-Muslim. Yeah, and it was initially a bit hard because I was in my I was at my home, and because I considered God as like my best friend and all, and it was a bit hard for me initially. I think I cried on the day I lost belief in God, and it was a bit hard. And after that it changed. Then after COVID, like the college started, I came here also I found like-minded people, and slowly I started like coming out, like saying that yeah, I am an ex-Muslim, like to my closest friends, and they were okay with it. After some time, now most of the people here know that I am an ex-Muslim, even Muslim friends, and they are also very accepting of that, and I'm very happy for that. And yeah, that's how it went.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how is that? Do you still feel that loss of missing God?
Sometimes I do feel that yeah, it's like something like that support system or something that we humans have. But yeah, but it's okay, like uh, it's okay for me now. I started like I also realized I am cured during this time, during the same time. Like I knew that when I was like 12 years old or something, but over time I tried to hide that stuff. I tried to like neglect it. It's not me. And over
Sorry, I
time,
didn't
yeah,
hear
I
that.
started.
Also realized what?
I was bisexual during that time. Not during that, I knew it from my 12th age itself. But
Hmm.
tried to like avoid the thoughts and stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, now I'm like I do explore myself. I do things that I didn't do then. Like I repressed my body a lot during that time. Not doing stuff, not wearing the clothes I like, and yeah.
Hmm.
So now I am exploring my life a bit, and it's nice.
That's a very positive outcome. I'm very happy that this happened to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you think there's anything that any kind of advice that you can give for people who had that shock of losing God in their life?
uh, I don't think I'm like the correct person to say these things, but yeah, it will be hard. I think it will be hard for everyone to like lose that huge support system or something, and it will pass over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're very happy to hear your story. I like hearing these, little success stories as well. I mean, not to call it little,
Yeah,
like
but
it's not a
my,
huge thing. And sorry, go ahead.
I didn't come out to my parents yet. Yeah, they don't
Mhm.
know those, but they do know that I'm not a huge believer and all, and I think they are okay with it.
That's great to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that's on your mind today?
Nothing much. Yeah, that's all. I really wanted to talk to you for a long time, but most times I get scared. And yeah,
Well, I'm glad that you had the chance to call today. Yeah. What were you scared of?
yeah. Like I was not ready to like. I haven't like talked like this openly to like people from the internet and all. That's the main reason.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But today I thought, yeah, why not I do it? I joined some time back, but then I left immediately.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel now that you have done the thing that you were afraid of?
feeling happy, I suppose. Feeling good. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I'm glad you took that step.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And thanks for all the works you're doing.
of course. Yeah, I'm happy to do it. I hope you have a good rest of your day, a great rest of your day.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Take care.
All right. Thank you, Amin, for joining the call. Now I'm taking the next caller. Next caller is Callie. If Callie is available, we'll try once more. Callie, I am adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going? Are you there? Muted? All right, perhaps not. If Callie's not ready, the next caller is Sunbal. Sunbal, hopefully you're ready. I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
Hi Aladdin.
Hi,
How are you?
I am great. Thanks for asking. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm fine as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, a bit nervous.
That's okay. I understand why you would be, but there is no need to be nervous.
Okay.
What's on your mind today?
Well, same as Amin. I also wanted to talk to you for a long time because just wanted to share with you how I became eventually an ex-Muslim. Thanks by watching your videos.
Okay.
So I was well, let's just say that I come from let's just say a liberal family, a Muslim family, but liberal family, but at the same time they are, I mean, quite religious. And I used to be very religious. Like I used to pray, I used to read the Quran, I used to wear the hijab as well by my own free will. No one actually, no one in my family wears the hijab. I was the only one who did that because I thought it was the right thing to do.
Are you there? I think we might have gotten disconnected again. What is it with
Okay.
StreamYard today? Yeah, I can hear you now.
No, I think I switched off the screen of my phone. That's why.
Oh, that's okay.
So yeah, so I was saying that I was quite religious, but eventually I discovered a few things about Islam that really, really disturbed me to the core. And one thing that really disgusted me and disturbed me and just made me into a complete atheist was the issue of the age of Aisha, the youngest wife of Muhammad. When I heard about that that she was a child and about everything else, I was like, no, I don't want to be part of this anymore. And it really broke my heart, I'll be honest. Because imagine you spend your whole life admiring someone, worshiping, someone, and eventually you find out that that person was not a good person. It's really heartbreaking.
Well, how did you feel about your belief in Islam before learning about that?
Well, before that, let's just say that I considered myself liberal. Like I supported the LGBTQ community, and I was, very open-minded. But at the same time, I was also, I also deep down in my heart, I believed that the true God, that Allah He is good. He wants, good for everyone, and that perhaps there is some Islamophobia and some people who spread some bad news, but it's deep down it's a good religion. This is what I thought, even though I had plenty of evidence that there are a lot of things that are wrong with this religion. Let's just start with the terroristic issue.
So you felt like those were issues. Did they affect your faith or your belief at the time?
Yes, like they made me doubt, but I was just too scared to face those doubts. They definitely made me doubt. They sometimes because I don't know if you are aware of the Charlie Hebdo events.
Mhm.
You know, that thing that happened in France when when those people were killed. Some members in my family, they were supporting it. They were saying, yes, they deserve to die. And I was, you know, me being a pacifist, I was not on board with that thing. I believed that that was completely barbaric. But a lot of people, they were, you know, they were saying that, yes, they did the right thing. So I'd say that these kind of incidents happen over and over again, but I was, I also said I was a bit coward to face these doubts because, you know, because I was born a Muslim, and ever since you're a kid, they instill these things in your mind in a very especially at a very young age, that you don't have to doubt Allah, you don't have to doubt Muhammad, and if you do, you'll go in hell. So you see, maybe that's why.
Well, I gotta ask you here, when, if you don't mind answering, maybe even like vaguely, how old were you when you finally faced those doubts?
24.
Okay, because you said something. You said that you were a bit cowardly to not face those doubts, and
Yeah.
I strongly disagree with that. Aside from the fact that you're not that old to like, it's not like it took you a long time to face the doubts, and even if it did, um, I don't think it's out of cowardliness. It's out of self-preservation. If it's out of indoctrination, I think you just it's normal to feel these like subconscious negative emotions towards yourself. Like, why didn't I think of this sooner? Why didn't I? Why wasn't I brave enough to get out of it sooner? I think you should reframe it as like, be happy that eventually you did face it, rather than feeling like you were cowardly to not face it. You know.
Yeah, thank you. That makes me feel better. But I'm still dealing with it because I'm really well. It's been 1 year since I've been an ex-Muslim, and you know there are still some moments when I struggle with it. Let's just say there's just this deep subconscious thing that that deep down you think, oh my God, have I done something wrong? Like, what if I'm wrong? I don't know, but like, but I'm happy. You know, I'm happy to be an ex-Muslim now. I'm happy that I found the truth because because especially as a woman, if you think about it, all of the issues that women go through, Muslim women go through, it's just it's very heartbreaking, and I mean I don't support any of that, and like even though I'm somewhat a closed ex-Muslim, like I haven't said it talked about this with my family except few friends and my sister. um I mean, if I think about it, I don't know how I'm going to deal with it, how they're going to react to this, probably in a very negative way. So that also scares a lot of people, a lot of young people, because they're scared of they're going to be, thrown out of their family.
Oh, and older people too. Like, I know of a 40-year-old man who still has relationship issues because of his family's involvement and his like being afraid to tell them that I don't believe anymore, and this is what it is. So yeah, it is a big problem, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. But for now, once I'll get independent, and mm, I, I don't think I just need to say it openly. I know that I am now an atheist, and perhaps I don't even need to give an explanation to my family. If they'll know, they'll know.
Well, this is kind of unrelated, but what does it feel like to? You said you're an atheist, so you believe there is no God. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. As for now, I give more importance to science because I've been in this, the religion thing for so long, and I haven't gotten, any kind of answers or that that satisfied me. So now I don't think there is a God. But I don't know, like, how how to convince other people of this. But as for now, I don't think there is a God.
And there's not necessarily a need to convince other people of it either, right? And well, other people on this call were talking about how much of a loss they felt when they realized that there is no God, or that at least Allah is not real. How did you feel about that, and how do you feel about it now?
Well, about the God thing, I think that God was created by humans, and where I come from, let's just say that that Muhammad was more worshipped somehow. He was like the main, um, I would say, the main celebrity rather than Allah himself. So, and I also had that kind of similar mindset. So for me, as I said in the beginning, that was the most heartbreaking thing, to find out that he was, not what everyone made him into.
That is very interesting, that you were more heartbroken about Muhammad not being who you thought rather than Allah.
Yeah, because I really thought that he was like the best of the best persons, best man ever on this earth, but I was far, far, far away from the truth.
That is very interesting to me, because I just mentioned this to someone the other day. Islam is really largely a worship of Muhammad, not Allah. Yeah. And but I didn't see it that way growing up, and I never was able to love Muhammad more than my own parents and all that kind of stuff. Like to me, I always had that little bit of skepticism, like when I heard the hadith about how the Sahaba used to bathe or like do wudu in his spit water, after he's done wudu. I would think that's weird. That's a bit gross. And I would be told, no, it's like a great honor and all that kind of stuff. And it never really clicked in my head that way. So the way you believed in Islam, the way I did, were a bit different, which is interesting.
Yeah, I guess it also depends from, like, cultures also play a big part, and how some things are taught. I don't want to give too much personal information, but let's just say in my country, my native country, I'm right now living in an Muslim country. In my native country, Muhammad was always presented as this holier than thou human being. And let's just say the good thing that you said, I was not even aware of this. I learned about this later. So this kind of, let's just say, even little bit weird things, they just never, this kind of information just didn't came to us. We were only taught that he was brave, that he was a hero, that he was this just amazing man, this kind, gentle man he was.
I learned all these things about him, and like just to compare our like ways of believing, it has to do with how we're taught it. It has to do with just different like ways of being skeptical about things. But it was me less doubting Allah, and it wasn't even doubt about Muhammad being a great person. It just never clicked in my head how much worship worthy he is. Like, to me, it seemed like, okay, the point is he's a messenger, we shouldn't deify him, so I'll say his name all the time. Yeah, I think he's great that he did this and that, but it never clicked in my head that I should love him more than my family, and I should love him so much. And I felt guilty about that. I felt like I'm not doing Islam correctly. Yeah. It's funny to see, well, not funny, it's interesting to see people's like loss, or that feeling of loss that they feel when they leave Islam is different, whether they focus more on Muhammad or more on Allah. So yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, it's all about Muhammad. I mean, he was the one who created Islam. He was the one who created this whole thing. So
I think the people around him also had a huge hand to play in Islam.
Yeah,
I think. But yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
And one more thing that kind of curious me from like a psychological point of view is that he had, quite a traumatized childhood, and usually people with those kind of life, eventually they build certain, mental issues, like they can hallucinate and this and that. Do you think that he might have some mental issues?
I don't know. I know that there's, like, I could point you towards Abdullah Gondal. He's done a lot of research. He appears on Friendly Ex-Muslim, Abdullah Samir's channel. He's
Yes,
done
I know him.
a lot of research about how the prophet showed signs of epilepsy, like all the signs of getting revelation. They're
Yeah.
very, very not very similar. They're
Exactly.
exactly signs
That's
of
what I thought as
epilepsy.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd classify that as a mental health problem. That is different than mental health. I mean,
Mm,
it's more of a neurological problem.
yeah.
And I can't like I'm not even qualified to diagnose Muhammad with anything, and we don't know all the facts about how he behaved. We just know the stories of what we heard. But I think there's at least a component of neurological illness there, based on the research that I've seen there. But I think it's I don't know. I was gonna say maybe it's not very important, but it is important to see how identical to a patient with a similar issue Muhammad is today, except the patient is not taken seriously, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now imagine someone who has now hallucinations and they just come up with stories that I saw this, I saw that, I traveled into this realm.
Mhm.
Nowadays no one would believe, but all those years ago, people were not clearly, but they were not that educated, and when they just bought into his stories.
And I think a lot of them were already primed for this kind of belief. Like they already believed in jinn, they already believed in black magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't a stretch to them. It was, just an extension of other stories that they knew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, another reason to not believe into religion in general, because they're mostly stories.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I am happy that you called in today. And yeah, I want to ask before I forget, how did you first come across my channel or any of my social media platforms?
Well, I discovered you through other channels. I first started following Apostate Prophet. I think I pretty much watched all of his videos, and then through his videos, you did a collaboration with him, and that's how I came to your channels. And by the way, I love the animations that you do. Please keep making them.
The animations, yeah.
Yeah, they're hilarious. With you add this informations with a little bit humor, and that's just more fun to learn.
Thanks. I have one in the works right now, still like in the writing stages, but about how Allah revealed to Muhammad the amount of prayer that we should do. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out.
That's going to be hilarious. I already know that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for calling in, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
I did. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks again, Sunbal. Who is the next caller? So the next caller is Nameless. I hope you are ready to join. Nameless, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Aladdin.
How are you?
I'm good. I wanted to say that your videos have helped me a lot in my path towards becoming ex-Muslim. One second.
Let's see. If Nameless is not available at the moment, I can push them back a bit because I did miss adding another caller to the stream first.
I'm available right now.
Okay. All right. We'll give it a few seconds then. So Neptune is suggesting use Midjourney for your animations. So for those who don't know, that's an AI that does art, I guess. I have considered that, but and someone else had already suggested that, but for right now, I've been using I've been working with the artist who draws them. Yeah. And here's a question while we wait for Nameless. Do you think that imams that preach on YouTube know about these flaws in Islam and turn a blind eye to them? Yes, a lot of them do. And I don't know if it's intentionally turning a blind eye or more like they found ways to explain them in their head. So, but a lot of them are aware of them. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so I just want to share my journey. And
Yeah.
before that, I am 15 years old. I discovered my path to apostasy when I was I don't know, during the lockdown mostly, because at that time we were stuck in our homes and using a lot of internet and stuff like that. So I was a very naive kid at that time. I used to go to madrasa. I completely believed whatever my parents told me, like about Islam and everything. Like, I didn't dare to question anything. If they told me to pray, I would pray. If they told me to fast, I would fast. And if they told me to wear the hijab, I would, like. And I also used to go to madrasa, so pretty much a lot of brainwashing and stuff. So while I was using the internet, I came across one of Apostate Prophets videos and stuff like that. And then on the way, I came across many other people like David Wood, Christian Prince, you as well, and as well as 1 second.
We lost the caller. I had some questions about that, but I guess we might hear from the caller again in a few minutes. We'll take the next caller soon, but yeah, Tooth Fairy says, why can't I highlight that? COVID lockdowns sure created a lot of disbelievers. I think the lockdowns gave people more time to be home with nothing to do, so they started looking into a lot of things. So yeah. And Marco says Aladdin's near the bottom of the list. You got to start somewhere. And yeah, I got to say, I hope that at some point ex-Muslims come across other ex-Muslims through channels like Apostate Prophet or mine, but not through Christian Prince or David Wood. I've made it very clear I don't necessarily like their channels. Christian Prince because of his delivery, and also it would be interesting to someday have some kind of conversation with him about Christianity. I wonder if he scrutinizes it the same way he does Islam. David Wood because he promotes Christianity, and I feel like these two things, like, if you want to talk about Islam and criticize it, propping up Christianity in its place seems almost opportunistic. There's a lot that can be said for his contribution. In some ways, he did expose many believers to things that they didn't know before, and that did help them in their life. But in other ways, I feel like the conversation should be dominated by people who have left the faith first, not others who have other intentions that have to do with their religion first and foremost. So, yeah. Superman says, why don't you invite Mufti Abu Layth? I don't know. Never really thought of anything to talk about with Mufti Abu Layth. He seems like a chill guy. He seems pretty easygoing about a lot of things. So I don't know. Maybe I'll ask him some of my most difficult questions from the days of my questioning and see what he thinks. I'll take the next caller in the meantime. Callie, I hope you're ready because I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going? Are you still there?
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I am good, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. Not bad.
That's good to hear. So, what would you like to talk about today?
I guess just a bit of background on myself. First of all, I'm an ex-Muslim of 10 years. I used to be a very religious Salafi, Ahlul Sunnah. Yeah, I left Islam about a decade ago. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And what compels you to call in today?
Just I really don't know. I'm kind of nervous now that I'm put on the spot. Like, I had some things in mind, but I kind of forgot now that I'm on the spot. But
that's okay. You can start by telling me, for example, how did you leave Islam? How did that happen?
Okay, so I basically was a part of the Dawah scene for like a few years. in the past. So yeah, one of the reasons why I left, I think I'll start with this, is like, the idea of like honest disbelief, right? I'm sure you've talked about it before, right? This idea that
Oh, you're cutting out. StreamYard is really not helping today. Are you there?
yeah,
You're back
can you
now.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was saying that there's this idea that like us non-Muslims, no matter how much proof we get given, we'll never believe, right? And that's an idea that is actually reinforced in the Quran. There's a verse about it.
Yeah.
So, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so
Oh, you're cutting out again. And I think you're back.
yeah, so where was I?
Honest disbelief.
Oh yeah.
Are you having network issues?
I'm using my phone right now.
Oh.
Am I cutting off a lot?
Sometimes you are, yeah. Maybe are you switching screens or anything?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm looking up my notes, that's why.
Okay.
Okay, I got it now. So basically, I've always wondered, again, if God is all-knowing and he knows exactly what it takes for us to believe, how is it that we still fail miserably? He still fails miserably to, convince us, right?
Well, a religious person would say that he didn't fail at convincing you, you failed at understanding.
But how is it possible that every single person on this planet, we just have some mental deficiency where the truth is right in front of us and we just cannot perceive it? Like, as a Muslim, like, I never could answer that. How is it? Yeah.
And why is it geographic too, Like,
Yeah.
what are the chances that all the people who have the mental deficiency to make them disbelieve or whatever, or the stubbornness or the evil nature in them, why do they all seem to live together?
That's true.
And like have the same kind of, racial background and all that kind of stuff. Like it was obvious to me from a young age. I had the same question. Obviously, a person who grew up a certain religion in a certain area, even if you expose them to Islam the correct way, so-called correct way, they're more likely to not believe you just because of what they already think is true.
Yeah, they have that bias.
Yeah. So that was on your mind back then as a Muslim?
Yeah, of course. And it's also how they say, well, like, God has given us proof, Allah has given us proof in the Quran, clear signs to make humans convinced of his existence. But then on the other hand, they'll also say, well, humans, like, no matter how much proof you give them, they'll never believe. So like, which one is it? Like, do we need proof? Is proof fundamental for belief or not? It's kind of a contradiction. And it's like, if as humans we don't use proof and we don't use our aql, our logic, to find the truth, and like, couldn't Allah just use a different method to try and convince us? You know what I mean? Like,
Allah in the Quran is kind of like half-assing it. Sometimes he's kind of trying to use logic, right? By telling us, look at the stars, look at the trees. But at the same time, Allah says, well, you shouldn't need miracles. You shouldn't need proof. Faith is about faith.
Right.
Yeah. So how did you live with those questions as a Muslim?
To be honest, once I started doubting, like, it wasn't long until I became an ex-Muslim. So, yeah. So like I said, I used to give dawah, right? And one of the things that also I never really understood, because I was in the dawah scene, is the people in the dawah scene are very dishonest sometimes. Like, have you ever seen those videos where it's like, oh, this person converted to Islam within 5 minutes or something, within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they always make that person take the Shahada before that person has even before that person has even read the Quran. Like, how can you do that? You know, and that person is not going to understand within just a 5-minute discussion. Like, they're not going to make a well-informed decision, like, just in 5 minutes. But yeah, for them, it's just like, as long as I can get this person to say the Shahada, like, that is enough for me. Like, even if the person doesn't know anything about Islam, you know what I mean?
Well, did you see that as a flaw in Islam or a flaw in humans who do da'wah, I guess?
Oh, that was a flaw. Yeah, sorry. that was like a flaw within humans, but yeah.
But it is something that bothers you. Sorry, the apologist in me is quick to like point out, but that's not Islam, sister. That's humans. You know? You kind of cut out for a second. Are you there? Are you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah. I can't hear you anymore.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Right. So yeah, where were we?
So you're talking about the da'wah scene and how dishonest you felt like they were.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. That was not like an inherent flaw within Islam. I guess I got carried away.
That's okay. You could still talk about that. I just want to point it out because I know there's going to be commenters who are like, "But that's not Islam, brother. That's that's humans."
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I had like some things I wanted to talk about, but I'm just like really nervous.
Well, that's all right. There's no need to be. What else? Was there anything about how has it been in the last 10 years now?
To be honest, I've kind of been on the fence. I wouldn't say like I'm 100% convinced that Islam isn't true, because I feel like, to be honest, there's good arguments on both sides. Like, I've heard some pretty convincing arguments like from the Muslim side as well, so it's not really that easy to make a choice. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm tempted to ask you about those, but I want to ask you something else first. Do you think those arguments are convincing to anyone or to you as a Muslim or ex-Muslim?
I think, for example, when it comes to objective morality, I definitely feel like when it comes to something like that, they definitely have the upper hand. Because I've like listened to both sides, and I feel like, yeah, when it comes to like objective morality, the Islamic side, the religious side, they what they make more sense. Like, it's very hard to
Well, can you put it into words? Like, what is it about Islamic objective morality that makes sense?
I definitely think that without religion, it's very hard to have a moral guide. You know what I mean? And it's, I would say, like, a lot of atheists are very like morally inconsistent too. Like, I feel like our morality, yeah, it's very like inconsistent.
I think everyone is morally inconsistent. But sorry, the connection is being weird. You said something. Sorry, I'm going to mute you for a second because the feedback is making a lot of noise. You said something that is very interesting and telling. You said that without religion, there is no source of morality or reference for morality or something of the sort. But what makes it Islam?
That's a good question. I would say, though, that if there was one religion that is true, I would say that it probably would be Islam. Because
why?
Well, I would say, first of all, because the Quran has been preserved, that gives it that edge above other religions. Because Christianity and other religions, like, I don't know, maybe it's just because the Muslims have told me this, but their books are not really that well preserved, and
But
Yeah.
that's only a criteria, I feel, because we as Muslims were taught that that is a criteria. But in a similar, like, I mean, why is the comparison always the criteria that Muslims have chosen? Oh, it's only because there's one God, only because there's the preserved book. And then because their religion wins in that criteria, it becomes convincing. Is there other criteria that makes Islam, aside from the criteria that Muslims have chosen, some kind of objective criteria that makes Islam more likely to be true?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I yeah. I don't know.
That's something to think about. There is we're very tempted to see Islam as likely, the more likely than the other ones to be true, if anything, because that's the one that we're familiar with and we've heard all the apologetics for. And it is a very tempting one to see that the Quran is preserved, but there's a lot of holes in the narrative, so to speak, about that, but it's only preserved because all the other versions were removed. So when you think about it that way, it's kind of like survivor's bias, if that's the right word. Like, we look at it now when we think, okay, obviously it's been preserved, but that's only because we don't know about all the ones that have went away. And I don't think that's a good criteria to judge the truthfulness of a religion. But aside from that, is there anything that makes you wonder, could Islam be true, aside from this kind of criteria?
Yeah, so another thing is Islam, I guess it has a moral code for every aspect of life. Like I said, going back to the objective morality, for example, you have Buddhism, where okay, they have like 5 main rules, like don't smoke, don't take intoxicants, certain things like that. But they have very few rules, and Islam is like the only religion that actually encompasses every aspect of life. And Sikhism as well, I believe, if I'm not wrong, Sikhism also does not have that many rules that encompasses every aspect of life, and like also works as a political legal system as well. You understand what I mean?
I kind of understand, but what about having a lot of rules that dictate everything makes it more likely to be true?
Yeah, for me, I guess it kind of goes back to the objective morality thing, because without rules, without designated like moral codes, it is extremely difficult to derive morality. You understand? Like,
Well, the issue
like
with the
even when I look, sorry,
yeah.
like even when I look at other religions, Buddhism, Sikhism, whatever, like they like do not have a moral, like, you understand what I mean. I don't really know how to put it into words, like.
Well, let's dismantle first this idea of objective morality. It wouldn't even be objective. It would be like the biggest reference, I guess, for morality would be God. But first, we'd have to start by proving God, not trying to find a gap to fill with God. So the way that the apologists are doing it now is thinking, well, we have to have a source of morality, therefore it is Allah, but not Allah is real and he said, let's do this. And that makes it the objective source of morality. They've never really proven that Allah is real. So just because we would like to have a more comprehensive or singular source of morality doesn't mean that it must be this one or that there is one at all, you know?
Yeah, that's right. But I do agree with like the Muslims or whatever when they talk about how religion does provide, like, I guess, an evolutionary and historical advantage, because it does keep society together. It does it binds everyone together, as opposed to just, like, I don't mean to go back to this, but subjective morality and having like creating your own ideals. Like historians have said that religion has provided has given people that historical advantage,
Mhm.
where religion binds people together, and it has given, you know what I'm trying to say?
I get what you mean, but so if something makes a species more likely to propagate or to succeed in that sense, does that make it necessarily true? Like cars have made it more likely for us to have access to, I don't know, to go to the hospital quicker. Does that mean that cars are more inherently true in a sense?
Not necessarily, no.
So I see it as a vehicle, like it is a social cohesion, or it was at some point a social cohesion tool. But does that make it true? Just because it's a mechanism that did help people create more people and be in a bigger group. And then it could actually have the reverse effect when the situation has changed now.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I think what I'm trying to emphasize is when you're trying to assess whether Islam is true or not, if you're on the fence, try to think of reasons why it's true, not reasons why it survived, or reasons why it was or is helpful, or reasons why it is better than the other religions. On its own, in a vacuum, is there anything about Islam, or say the morality that this so-called objective morality of Islam, do you see it as being more beneficial for humans and more humanitarian than the morality of the so-called West?
Not really, but I also do understand that even Islamic objective morality is not entirely objective, because you can still have different interpretations of different rulings, different moral rules within Islam. Like, for example, abortion. Yeah, I mean, there's like a difference of opinion when it comes to almost everything within Islam. So I would not entirely call it like absolute objective morality. You know what I mean? But an apologist would say, well, at least we have, like, even if our objective morality, like, we have differences of opinions, whatever, we still have more of a foundation and a reasoning and a for our morality compared to atheists, right? Like, we still have a
No, I
strong
wouldn't say reason, because the reason would be because God said so, the God that was never proven, right? But maybe we have more of a, like you said, there's a lot of subjectivity in it, of course, but there's more of a more coherent set of rules, maybe, but they're not even necessarily coherent. A more collected set of rules, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily good, or that they're true, or that they're objective in any way. That's again a criteria that they have picked to excel in, right?
Yeah. But then, like, for example, like when you say, well, like, is the morality of Islam and, like, for example, like sexual slavery or stuff like that, I would say, though, like, still, sorry, like, I feel like if there is a God, I don't think that would debunk his existence. You understand what I mean? Like, perhaps, like, I don't think that us, for example, saying like sexual slavery, etc., all these things within Islam, that debunks the existence of Allah. Because, again, how do we know, like, if there is a God, what kind of morality he would have, or like what kind of moral compass he would have? You understand what I mean?
I get what you mean, but then we'd be describing a God that's different than Islam is describing, because Islam describes him as like perfect, right? And as fair. And if you can see a better way to make it fair in that situation than just have a sex slave, then you have bested that perfect fairness, and you have therefore debunked that this is a perfect method.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, we can think of, like, say there's an abundance of women after a certain war. Like, say that is the situation that we have to deal with, right? And who's going to provide for these women or whatever? We can think of better ways, even like a horrible way, like start a sweatshop, That's better than sex slavery. We can think of better ways today, and if we pull our resources together, we can do better than the objective, perfect creator of the universe. So, and going back to that whole objective morality reference thing, if the Islam is truly objective and good in terms of its morality, then if we dismantle all sources of morality today and all laws and just follow the Islamic ones everywhere in the world, they should apply perfectly and the world should be a utopia. Do you think that would happen? If we do that and everyone goes along with it, do you think the world would be a better place?
I wouldn't say it would be perfect, but something in me though does say like, you know what, there would be much more like, I guess going back to the whole unity thing, there would be more law and order compared to like just a fully secular society. You know what I mean?
I mean, if everyone in the world followed the same set of secular laws, then we would have cohesive unity and whatever. But do you think, would it be better if everyone followed the secular laws of, say, I don't know, I don't even want to use a certain country today because none of them are perfect, but do you think that it's better to live under the laws of, if everyone lived under the laws of the US, for example, everyone, and they weren't invading anybody, like everyone just had these laws? Is that better, or an Islamic state?
I mean, yes, I don't know, because, you know, a Muslim would ask me, like, well, then you say, well, it would be morally better, but then what would you base your morality on? You know, and that's the thing I can't really get over is like, you know what I mean? Like,
What do they base their morality on?
yeah, they would ask us, like, what we would base our morality on. Oh, you say that, like, you know how they say, like, you cannot say that Islam is morally wrong because you don't even have a definition of, like, morality, right? So
No,
that's the thing that I cannot really.
I mean,
like,
I can tell you what I base
they ask me, I
a
can't
lot of my
really.
morality on. Like, what do you like when you see someone doing a crime? Do you stop it, or like do you intervene, or do you call 911 or whatever the number is, because it's a sin not to do it, or because you feel bad for them and you don't want that to happen to you?
Well, if do you want me to answer like if I were a Muslim, like what would a Muslim
No,
think?
currently, like what do you think currently?
Well, of course, because I'm not religious, I would do it, you know, out of empathy for that person.
So isn't that possibly a basis for morality that is part of, like, there is no they're asking us to give this one answer. I have morals because A, B, and C, and that's not how it is. Even they have morals because more than just Allah said so. Like, as a Muslim, would you have not only called the police because Allah said to step in, or else it's a sin, or because you care as a human being?
Well, because I would care for them as a human being, right?
So even as a Muslim, it wasn't because of objective morality.
Right. But I mean, if I was a Muslim, I would have said like Islam is like sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Like, if you were a Muslim, you would have framed it as because it's a sin to not intervene or something.
Yeah, something like that. It would be a sin, basically.
But is that actually the thought process that you would have as a Muslim? That you would think, this is a sin, I must do something because it's a sin not to do something? Or would you think, oh my God, someone needs help, I will help them? And then you think, oh, that gives me good points and it's a sin to not do it. Like, which comes first?
Of course, I would do it out of empathy. That would come first.
Right. So even they aren't really necessarily following the objective morality first. It's just whatever happens to align with the objective morality, they'll do. But if they have an impulse as a believer that goes against their source of morality, they will stop themselves from doing it. But the source is not, is it a sin or is it a good deed?
I guess for them it would be a good deed. But then, you know, like, they would say, though, that, like, not everything that you feel or not everything that you're biologically wired is what is good for you all the time. You can't always trust your instincts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's why we have a lot of precedent and a lot of research into what's good for us and what's not. It goes beyond just an animalistic instinct of, I'm going to do this or eat that or steal this. I think religion tends to take credit for things that it had nothing to do with very often. So to claim that they have the objective source of morality when they've never demonstrated any objectivity, and then never demonstrated that applying it would benefit humans in any way or shown us how this objective morality is good, it's really a lot of talk and no show. Like, where can we see this example of a perfect Muslim society, or even that's doing better than the secular laws? You're muted again. We can't hear you yet.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
So sorry, what was the question?
Let me remember again. So we hear a lot of hypotheticals that, this is bad because it's subjective. We have objective, but it's never been proven to be objective. This is bad because it's inconsistent and you can't trust your instincts. We have what is consistent, but it's never been proven to be consistent or proven to actually show benefit or societies thriving under Islamic ruling, or that it would apply to all times and places. So why do we give them so much credit for hypotheticals?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
I mean, think about it this way. Like, Muslims were given the perfect guide. They were given, and many Muslim countries were given oil and other resources. They were given a lot of tools that if they had used, like if these tools were actually that useful, any country following Islam would be at least doing better in dealing with its own problems, let alone like surpassing all the other countries in the world,
Yeah.
But I know it's very difficult to tackle a lot of these apologist issues that apologist like thinking patterns that we've grown with, or maybe we've even repeated when we used to be believers. But I think you need to think about it from an outsider's point of view, not just from the background of Islam is the closest to me, and therefore it makes more sense that I need a source of objective morality, and it's this, Objectively, if you can be objective, take yourself out of the equation. Is what they're saying true objectively? And if so, is it just pushing you towards what you know, or is it pushing you towards Islam specifically,
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, because I agree with you. I'm not totally 100% on board with Islam, but I I guess also, like, when I look at secularism and I look at liberalism and kind of like what it's doing to society, that kind of makes me want to go back to Islam, if you get what I mean. Like,
well, what is secularism doing to society?
I don't want to sound like a bigot, but I definitely do think that, like, for example, I mean, sorry, but we're going back to the whole subjective morality thing about how this, I guess one of the things that I do agree with Muslims on is this idea that, we shouldn't just live according to our desires and what makes us happy. And, if it doesn't harm anyone, like, you can go ahead and do it. Because, we now have, like, sorry, like, I don't really want to sound like a bigot, but, like, we now have, like, people that believe that you can be like animals, and we cannot necessarily say anything about that, because if that's how that person wants to identify, you know what I mean?
Identify as an animal?
Yeah, it's a real thing. Or
Is that like
Well,
really a widespread phenomenon in secular countries, people identifying as animals?
I mean, not really, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying, right? I feel like a lot of this liberalism and stuff like that, though, I feel like it has pushed people
No,
into the
but
other direction.
that's the
Like,
thing.
not
That's like the slippery slope argument that, if people will eventually end up like this, and that is a very useful tactic to keep people within their group. But do you actually see a trend for being secular, whatever that means, causing people to be more likely to identify as animals and be tolerated for that?
no, but
So
I don't
why is
know.
it a concern?
Because again, I don't believe that we should base society on just like do whatever what makes you happy as long as it doesn't harm anyone. Because how exactly would, like, I don't want to bring up the whole incest thing, but like that's also one thing that I can't really get over. Like, what would stop us from committing incest? Like,
There's it's so frustrating to me that Muslims often use this incest example when incest is halal Islamically, right? Like, so let's say, like,
right,
take those two examples. Like, incest between cousins is halal in Islam, and that does cause harm. There are a lot of communities around the world, like, look at Pakistan, for example, lots of generations of cousin marriage that leads to people having, and not just Pakistan, by the way, it's many, many other countries and communities, leads to like the next offspring having genetic problems. Allah should have known, right? If Allah is the objective, arbitrator of the truth and morality, He would know that this is not good for the kids and then for their kids, and that is halal. But then there's the hypothetical. What in secularism or atheism or whatever stops people from having sex with their sister, which is not something that they do, and they can give reasons to why not. So why doesn't the incest in Islam play a role in your doubt or repelling from it, but the hypothetical scenario of incest in a non-Islam world is a problem?
well, I've talked to Muslims about this issue of cousin marriage, and basically the way that they justify it is that all the scholars, I believe even Umar ibn Khattab, he even said that, if you marry your cousin, sorry, it's halal, but it's like it's discouraged because it creates weak children. So that's
I
their
don't know if
just
that's Omar said. I'm not sure if Omar ever said that, but like
many
it
of
seems
like the
like Allah didn't
classical
say it
scholars.
strongly enough though. Like, why is it halal then?
Well, I mean, I guess because they would say that it was halal for a certain time, like, and if you only marry your cousin once, as long as it's not like a repeated thing, it
But
will
nobody
not.
said that. Allah never said that.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. But then they would also say, well, we have like the tafsirs and we have the classical scholars that say
but
that
we have
it's
generations of
discouraged,
people
it's
with like
mustahab.
but there are a lot of people who already exist because of that, because Allah did a poor job, if that was His intention, of saying just marry one cousin, don't do it the next generation, which is still weird and could still cause issues. Um, all of that is not even mentioned. So why are we cutting so much slack for Islam there? But the hypothetical scenario that maybe there's nothing stopping incest in the secular world, that is bad. Like incest is already happening and hurting people who live and die in Islam.
Right. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, they would just say that the fiqh discourages it, like it's mustahab, even if it's halal.
But why is it allowed at all? Like, imagine if I said secularism, it says it's okay to have sex with your sister, but it discourages it. Like, Muslims would have a field day with that.
Sorry, when I said mustahab, I think that means encourage, right? Not
Yeah,
discourage.
mustahab,
Yeah.
munkar, or makruh
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what you're thinking. Yeah.
Sorry, what was your question?
So, like, I'm saying the standard here is very inconsistent. So, if I were to say my belief system or whatever it is allows sex with your sister, but it's makruh, apologists would like cling onto that and say, see, this is the grossness that happens when you leave Islam. But on the other side of things, we see people living with medical conditions because of incest, and we give Islam we cut it so much slack that we say, but Islam did say it's makruh, which I'm not even sure is true. But like, how come we're not consistent about that?
Yeah. But I mean, I guess they will say that, you know, even if it's not written in the Quran, the classical scholars and I guess like the hadith and everything,
But why
they
isn't it
do
though? Like,
discourage it. Like,
why didn't Allah say clearly, just don't marry your cousin, man? Like, it's not good.
yeah, that's true.
Like, that's the objective. Like, how can science now more know about genetics and understand the harm of it better than the objective moral code?
That's right. And you know, another thing is they'll say, like, for example, cousin marriage is discouraged or whatever, but then at the same time, like, I've seen Muslims on TikTok that are like, you know, like, I hang out with my cousin, whatever, and then there's all these Muslims that are like, astaghfirullah, like, your cousin is not your mahram.
Mm-hmm.
But if cousin marriage is not allowed, then shouldn't we normalize, like, being friends with your cousin or not seeing them as a potential spouse? Like, isn't that the attitude that you should encourage? Like, that's what I also don't understand. Like,
see, that's a big problem that I have with Islamic apologetics. Is as soon as they label something as, yeah, it's allowed but not encouraged or whatever, a lot of Muslims tend to think, oh, okay, that answers my problem. But it doesn't actually, because it's not consistent with the rest of Islam, right?
yeah.
And secularism has nothing to do with any of that. Like, you can have secularism is just the separation of religion and state, right? So then what do you build the laws on in the state? That's a good discussion to have, but it doesn't immediately mean therefore incest is an option. It seems to be like a one size fits all. Anything bad goes towards atheism or secularism, because that's the worst case scenario that'll happen if you don't have Islam, right? What about all the worst case scenarios that happen with Islam without even getting into like all these fallacies?
I can't see the comments. Like, I bet people are flaming me right now.
No, don't worry about the comments. I like try not to pay attention to them, but I don't think they really are. No.
Yeah, so I guess the whole objective morality thing, even though I 100% agree with everything that you said, like, that is still something, you know, when it's like, when you're in front of a Muslim, they're just like, aha, you know, you can't base your morality on anything. And it's just, you know what I mean? Like, that's always an issue for me, because I never really know how to, like, counter their points and stuff like that.
A lot of their points, and that's a problem that a lot of us go through. A person like that is well trained on the right things to say to win, but are they actually right? That's not necessarily the same thing. They can stump you with certain questions, but there's a lot of fallacies that we don't pick up on, and I should focus on that more. I should really get into that more. Is a lot of the leaps that they make, you know, I got you, therefore so and so is wrong. Like, just because you can't say my morality is based on this book, therefore I am better because at least I have a book to point to. That's very false. Like I said, I just showed a bunch of examples of how this so-called objective morality is bad, that they say is superior, which is never objective to begin with. So you need to slow down and take a second to think about it and just go beyond just the conversation with the person or winning the conversation with the person, you know?
Yeah. that's true, yeah.
And I think there needs to be a lot more, like, these people need to start facing those who, like, they shouldn't just go to those who are on the fence or those who are Muslims and keep repeating the same things. They should start to talk to people like myself or other people who are interested in arguing about that kind of stuff, more knowledgeable people than I am, because then they start to fall apart immediately. When you start to point out that, wait, you can't point to your religion to call something true that's kind of circular, they don't have as much to say. So yeah, I'm upset that they get away with so much, like so many fallacies in their arguments. But aside from like the objective morality thing, is there anything that still makes you think Islam might be true? Not just that we need a religion for objective morality, Islam specifically.
Yeah. Well, off the top of my head, I would say there's one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I know this might be a bit controversial, but I would say women in Islam, I definitely don't feel, and maybe this was just my, I know this is just like my isolated personal experience, but I do feel though, as a Muslim, wearing, when I used to wear the niqab and everything, I definitely do feel like that, like I was not harassed as much. I I definitely do feel like we live in a world where like women are very objectified, very heavily sexualized, whatever. And I I understand that some people are gonna be like, oh, the hijab doesn't protect against sexual assault, whatever. But there are in Islam though, the hijab is alone is not gonna protect you, right? But they have other rules as well, such as, for example, a woman should have a mahram with her. That is also something that I kind of agree with. Um,
Do you wear a niqab now?
no.
Why
I'm
not?
I'm an atheist.
But you can, if it objectively protects you from harassment and makes you feel safer, why don't you wear a niqab?
I mean, I don't, I do dress modestly, but I don't wear the niqab, whatever, because I just like I. I mean, it is uncomfortable, even if it does like make me, even if like it doesn't, even if it prevents harassment, whatever, and I feel safer in it. Like the uncomfortableness of it trumps that. You feel me? Like, I don't know.
The uncomfortableness of wearing it, like the inconvenience of wearing it,
Yeah, of course.
outweighs the safety that it would give you.
Yes.
So either you're in a very safe area already, or you value your comfort way more than your safety.
I believe though that like there is something good about women not sexualizing, not objectifying themselves. Like, I can't quite put my finger on it, but I definitely think that like whatever approach we have right now in the West in a secular society is clearly not working, because we have the same, sexual assault rates as Muslim countries. You know what I mean?
That is not true. No.
Really? Like,
No, because in Muslim countries, how do you even report sexual assault? Or like, for example, sexual assault by a relative or a husband. These statistics are not even gathered, but I seem to recall a statistic about Egypt. Like the number of women who were harassed in Egypt was some crazy number, over 80%. That's not true in the US, for example. 80% of women?
you mean 80% in America or in?
And I believe the number was over 80% in Egypt. The number of women who were sexually harassed to some extent, not just like the worst extents, but all of it is bad. But I'm saying like starting from catcalled or harassed and made feel unsafe on the street, in a niqab too. 80% of women. How does that compare to like the US has 80% of women harassed?
Like, what exactly what exactly are you trying to compare?
I mean, you were saying that sexual assault happens at the same rates in the West.
Yeah.
Based on what statistic?
No, sorry, I didn't articulate my point really well. But what I was trying to say was that I definitely think that whatever method of protection of women we have in secular societies is definitely not working. And I feel like even if it's like super uncomfortable and it might seem super oppressive, the Islamic way, if we were to cover every woman, make her walk with a mahram, not free mix, I don't really see how, like, if it was implemented properly, I don't see how that wouldn't like lower assault. Like you get what I mean?
So, but I get where you're coming from, but that's a very bad way to think of it. That if only women were always shepherded by a man, they're her husband or father or whatever, then they won't be assaulted. So if only to stop men from sexually assaulting women, we should involve more men, and that's
Right.
going to fix it.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
like,
you're saying, for example, in the West, the methods to reduce sexual assault are not really working compared to what baseline?
I mean,
That
what
women
I
still
was,
get assaulted, you mean?
yeah, that was kind of what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Like,
Unfortunately, that is happening, but I mean, maybe, hopefully, at some point in the future, it'll be closer to 0%, but that doesn't mean that it's not working at all, and therefore we should have a man making sure that other men don't harass a woman all the time. Because, first of all, that's not practical. Secondly, a lot of the assault comes from trusted people as well, and it's more likely to be covered up in a religious society. Like, in Islam, you can have sex with your wife against her will, and that's halal. So I think we're focusing on the wrong person here. Like, we're focusing on how can we shield, like, keep the woman far away from men to stop the men from assaulting her, but not what can we do to make the men less rapey.
I agree with you, but I mean, at the same time, I also don't like, not trying to put the blame on the women, but I don't think that there's anything that we can do to like we can educate men, we can whatever, but I don't think there's any way to truly stop harassment or whatever in a society, you know. So this idea that like just teach the men not to rape, like, how exactly do you go about doing that? Because we already have laws that literally punish them, you know, for SA and stuff. Like, what is the solution? I don't understand when they say like just teach men.
Well,
What
we can
exactly?
start by, like, if we start by taking certain steps, we would at least get to a better point than where we are right now in the Middle East. Like, in the Middle East, for example, how can we do better as a society? First thing people ask is, what was she wearing? Why was she there? Women get beheaded for not accepting a guy, and they would still kind of be blamed sometimes. That's the first step. We should start by working on that. Secondly, take away all the idea of like men will be men, or, well, we have to protect the women because men are just going to be rapists. Like, what are you going to do? All that kind of stuff we have to take away from that. We have to stop making men think that the woman has to, like, first of all, men and women should be like, I'll give you an example of myself. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I was not used to seeing women so-called uncovered, which is just like wearing regular clothes. So when I first saw them, I was confused. I felt like that was sinful. I felt like that was bad. But then I got used to it, and now if I see them on the street, I don't look twice. I don't really care. That is partly because I was educated to realize that they're not trying to get your attention. They're just women. And then when I see them, I don't get aroused because it's my first time ever seeing a woman's leg. So part of it is normalizing women wearing regular clothes and not hiding them completely. There's a lot to be done, that we look at the Middle East doing nothing of all that and blaming the women and advocating for all these religious laws. And how's that working out? It's working out way worse than other countries. So we need to at least get to the point where the Middle East or Muslim countries are like similar to the West, and then we can talk about how can we do this better.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess an apologist would say, well, that's because they don't have Sharia, whatever. Like, rapists don't get executed, whatever. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's not true Islam being implemented.
But when is true Islam ever going to be implemented? Because
I don't think it ever will. I don't think we'll ever have a true Islamic khilafah.
So why do we keep trying? Because the way I see it is, not only will it never be implemented, every time we keep trying, it's worse than secular countries. The conditions are worse. So why don't we go with the secular countries method and actually enforce these laws?
Yeah, I mean,
because
I guess
it's
they would
unfair to
say,
always
like,
it's unfair to pit like any I don't know, any kind of enemy, secular, atheist, whatever country they want to label it, versus a hypothetical Islam that has never and will never ever be applied. So we need to deal with reality. We need to stop thinking about ideally we would do this and that. What's actually working today? What have we demonstrated that works better? And also, I have a better suggestion for the whole mahram thing. Men should never walk alone. Men should be in groups with, like, why don't we implement it that way? There has to be a law officer with every man all times. Or like a relative of a man. Why is it the relative of a woman? Why not the relative of a man has to always stop the man from raping?
I mean, I guess if you want me to answer honestly, I would guess because men are physically stronger than women, and you know what I mean, like, like, yeah, like I do believe men, are the protectors of society, even if, like, yes, true, they are responsible for most of the abuse, whatever, but we still need men as protectors.
We don't. We have guns these days and stuff. Like, give women guns and let them be the police, and then you don't need men's muscles anymore. But think about it this way. How about no man is allowed to leave without a mahram woman? Wouldn't that be better?
How exactly? Like,
so women can go around, go to the supermarket, go to work, whatever. If a man wants to leave the house, he has to be accompanied by a woman, by a mahram woman, a relative. Because how can he sexually assault someone if he's with his mother or sister?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on board with this whole mahram thing, but I'm saying, like,
yeah, you were thinking that ideally you would protect the women, but wouldn't it be more ideal if it was men were locked inside unless they have a woman to go out with? That would reduce the sexual assault even more, because then women can go around without having to worry about a random man walking on his own, ever.
But wouldn't that be, I guess, the whole point of gender segregation, which they already kind of have, like women zones only and men are separate? Like,
except
that would be better for society. Like,
the men are the ones who assault. I'm trying to implement the same kind of rule. Like, I think there are better ways to do it. But if we were to implement the segregation method and to really just separate, because men are going to eventually rape. Some men are going to rape, if that's the mentality. Then why not lock them up? And only they can go out with a woman. This is actually a brilliant idea. I'm going to make a video about this.
I can't really argue with that. I don't know.
But so here's the thing. Like, I'm just some guy, right? And this idea, I think, is more brilliant for today's day and age than Allah's objective morality. How could I come up with such a brilliant idea better than Allah?
I mean, maybe it would, like, reduce assault and everything, but at the end of the day, like, the I guess they would say, like, the man needs to go out and work and stuff like that. He can't be locked at home like a woman. I don't know.
When he would be accompanied by a woman, or like work in a workplace where there are women to make sure that he doesn't do anything wrong.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm not saying that's the solution to sexual assault, but if we're adopting the same mentality, I think it's a better solution than the mahram the other way around.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest.
I'm saying it kind of as a joke, but I want you to think about it for a bit, like after the call, and think about, is it like, which method would be better for reducing sexual assault?
Okay, I'll have a think about it.
Yeah. Because everything you're thinking, like, men need to work, that's fine. We can have programs where, the men are accompanied by women on their way to work. Like, there's always going to be women on the bus who are like driving and whatever. And like, there's always going to be ways to make sure that the men get to work. And there are women supervisors. Like, all of that can be enforced. Women can have guns to make sure that the men, like women enforcers, like if we're coming up with this whole political societal system, we can have women police with guns. And I think that would be a better system for sexual assault. Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
um, no, not really. I just came on here to express some of my thoughts. By the way, I was just kind of playing devil's advocate. Like,
Mhm.
I wasn't actually trying, like, saying that I believe in these views, but you know what I mean. Like, yeah,
I know. I'm
I was,
trying to like play devil's advocate back because I don't think that's a good system. But like to think about what if we do something else that's like similar to what the devil's advocate is suggesting. So I don't know. Hopefully, it was kind of a productive, thought provoking conversation for you too.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just got a bit like nervous. I had a lot that I wanted to talk about, but
That's
this is my
okay.
first time on the stream, so
Hey, and there's always going to be
yeah.
a next stream, so don't worry. Hopefully, we'll have you back at some point.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me on.
of course. Yeah, thanks for calling, and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye bye. All right. Thanks again to the caller. We have 3 more callers to go, and then I gotta go. Uh, so the next caller is, let's see, Earth. Earth, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
It's cool. How are you, man?
I am great. Thanks for asking.
Okay, this is my first time in some virtual place, and at the same time coming out other than my friends and one or two other people. So yeah, I've been watching your channel from the very beginning. Like I found you on the Reddit. I follow you over there too. Thanks for thanks for existing, man. Like that, it helped me. Uh, there's many different things uh, I wanted to talk about. Like, what do you want to talk about? Like my journey, or like I wanted to talk about another stuff about like political Islam, and or if you want, like uh, I can continue the conversation you had earlier with Kali little before.
Well, no, I want to know what's on your mind. So, what did you want to talk about?
Okay. For now, like when I wanted to join the call, I've been watching for a long time. I was thinking of like, why not let's talk about the political Islam part. Like, it was in my mind for a long time, and for the most of the part, I was thinking that uh, it's becoming moderated over time. And English is not my native language, and it's my second language. So,
No
uh,
worries.
yeah, okay, thank you. So for me, most of the time, I thought like there is Islam is getting moderated, so eventually it will merge with the current secular attitude we have to the politics, society, how all of it manifest. But recently, I have come to see as one interview from Harry Sultan and another person. Let me look his name. Okay, the very recent interview by Harry Sultan. So there was a guy who was mentioning some prominent figure like Linda Sarsour, and he was saying that she she supports LGBTQ. Like he had a very bold claim over there that whenever she talks about Sharia law in US, she mentions about she wants the very holistic, some unreachable, some idealistic view, some hyperbolic idealistic view that doesn't represent the Sharia from Afghanistan. I knew her for beforehand, so I went back and checked to fact check him. He was saying that she was having a debate with Dr. Yasir Qadhi, and she had the view, she held view that she supports LGBTQ and whatnot. But when I later checked, there was discussion with some other YouTuber with Yasir Qadhi, and they were talking about that. Y- uh, that is not the case. That is not the case. That maybe they support in front of media or in front of to support their cause for now because they're such a fringe minority. But that is not what they're doing. That is even I noted something down that Linda Sarsour was saying, that every time I had to talk for any my political activism, I didn't have to give up anything about myself, and nobody ever told me to give anything about myself. Like many different example I could see where they are marching with LGBTQ people, but they don't support it. So what is your think about it? Thought about this?
I think there are like I don't know if what you mentioned about Linda Sarsour, the politician. I don't know much about her, but I think a lot of politicians they try to they try to kind of walk the line where they don't want to offend the LGBTQ. They want their support because they know that there are a lot of activists who do want LGBT rights and they stand up for their rights and all that. And at the same time, they see Muslims as a minority and they stand up for their rights in the U.S. at least, and not just stand up for their rights. They advocate for them and they try to beautify their image in some way. And they don't want to offend one group or another. So like a politician like that would want that support without explicitly saying that they do accept the LGBT in Islam. Like they will really try to word it in the most gracious way. But I think there's a lot of dishonesty, even from Yasser Qadi. Like there's a video that I dissected of his lecture where he was talking about how certain things would be bad PR for Islam. Like it's almost like he's admitting there are certain things that they should be talked about when Muslims are a majority or in power, but not at other times, where it's not a good look for Muslims to take a stance on this right now, which makes it very hard to like, there are a lot of conspiracy theories about Muslims are lying to you, which I don't think is true. But the ones like who are, trying to invite people to Islam or talking about Islam or representing it are definitely lying. So yeah, I think there's a lot of dishonesty there.
But it was really frustrating to see somebody who claims that he's moderate Muslim. That guy is studying in having his PhD on Harvard University, and he come to the show lying to his teeth about this. Like it's really frustrating to see things like that. And I think is that like what government should do, or like what the activists should do, that they shouldn't target the like people in general, but they should restrict what is preached, what kind of preaching or what kind of talk is going on in the mosque or by the religious leader.
I think what we need to do is put these people on the spot and ask them direct questions. And since I haven't had a chance to have a conversation with Yasser Qadi yet, maybe someday, my part would be like taking his words and dissecting them and showing how they're inconsistent with what he says in other places or with what he says in the same conversation. And we need to scrutinize them more till they tell us a more straight answer. It's kind of like politicians. I see it like politics. Islam is politics.
If you don't mind, like, can I share some like small 5 minutes clip that you might look at later, and maybe you can get some, like, he's directly saying that don't attack Ihan or like Linda Sarso, they're a prominent person there with them, but they because of them we can have our concern.
You can send it in the private chat. I will try to take a look at it later. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for your time. I wanted to talk about lots of things, but I'm really lost in my thought right now. Maybe I'll join someday later. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Bye-bye. All right. Thank you for calling Earth. I'm going to take the next caller now. Oh yeah, I forgot to read this by Nazon. Thank you very much for the super chat. Says this, then why is it not legal to marry a sister in any secular country? Because it's a societal harm. That's regarding the previous conversation that I was having with the previous caller, about how, like, she was saying that without Islam or without a religious moral code, it's a slippery slope to things like incest. And yeah, part of why people don't do incest, aside from the fact that it's just inherently intrinsically gross to them and psychologically harmful, it's bad for society. There are many ways that one could argue that. and it's not a, it's again, religious apologists tend to fixate on hypothetical problems that without their religion there will be incest, and stray away from actual problems that with their religion there is a different flavor of incest, and that's fine. So yeah, anyway, thanks for the super chat, Nazon. And it's funny, this like I said in the beginning of the stream, I'm very, very grateful that I get to do this, and I enjoy these live streams, and I enjoy everything that I do on this channel. I really, really enjoy this opportunity, but also sometimes I think about how unhealthy it is for me to be thinking every other day about or exposed to discussions about incest, about sexual assault, about all this kind of stuff. It gets tiring, because it's not even that, it's not the exposure to these issues or to people who want to talk about suffering from them. No, it's the exposure to all the hypotheticals that completely miss the point. So sometimes it can get very tiring. Anyway, taking the next caller now. The next caller is Flower. I am adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Aladdin. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm good, thanks. What about you?
I'm good. I just created this Google account just so I could talk to you.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you for joining.
Well, do you want me to start talking about my background as to why I left Islam?
Sure. Yeah. Whatever you feel like.
So I'm actually from Bangladesh, and my family dynamic is a bit different from most Muslim families. My mother is an Muslim, but my father, he's an atheist. Now, how those two got married is like for another time. I'll tell you some other time. But yeah, she wasn't very happy that my father was a non-Muslim when she figured out. Like, he's an ex-Muslim too, and so she tried her best to make sure that neither me or my brother like become ex-Muslims. So but unfortunately 18 years later, after I was born, I ended up leaving Islam, and she didn't take it very well. And in Bangladesh, a lot of students, a lot of kids, they have like home tutors that would teach them Arabic and learn about Islam. So when I was around 13 or 14, I started reading the Quran there are in Arabic, and my Arabic teacher, she was a woman, and she seems to suffer from cognitive dissonance. So she told me that women are not in the same level as men, that women are stupid. And this is coming from a woman, by the way. And I was like, wait, you are a woman too, how can you say that? Where in Islam does it say that women are stupid? Like that's something that made me question Islam more. And then another thing that I guess made me shocked is that when I came across the hadith where Muhammad like consummated his marriage with Aisha at the age of 9, like when Aisha was 9. So when I read the hadith for the first time, I felt like there was a shiver down my spine, and I thought I was gonna puke right on the spot, but I didn't leave Islam right away. I thought that no, this can't be true. These are the all Christians and ex-Muslims doing that. They were spreading these lies, these hadiths. They can't be real. It doesn't matter if it's from Bukhari or Muslim. But then I realized that, well, without this hadith, we wouldn't know how to live life Islamically, because the Quran doesn't say everything. Like sometimes you have to rely on the hadith to be, I guess, a model Muslim. And the hijab issue is also something that like made me feel inferior to men in a sense. I guess guys aren't like required to cover as much as girls were. So my mother, she never made me wear hijab, but like she did wanted me to dress traditionally but more modest. Like anything that's Western in any sense, it wasn't allowed for me. But I guess I fought with her a lot about it, and I didn't leave Islam until much later, until I moved to the United States. But even then, it was like a gradual process. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Yeah, so yeah, I remember like when the pandemic started, I was like spending a lot of time on YouTube. I came across the Apostate Prophet, and then he I guess he debunked Islam in a lot of ways. And then I asked, was questioning myself that yeah, it does make sense. And while I was watching him and watching you, I couldn't bring myself to hate you guys. I was like, because at that point I was still a Muslim, but I felt like that, hey, let's just like hear out what they have to say, because Muslim scholars and even my Arabic teacher, like I asked them so many questions, but they always talk in circles and they cannot give me the answer that I'm looking for. So there's that. Yeah.
Well, that's very sweet of you that you couldn't bring yourself to hate us. I hear it a lot the other way around, that I used to hate you, or like, yeah. But it's nice to know that some people, they just can't do it from the beginning. That's sweet. Yeah. Yeah. So you said that you had come across some things that made you sick in Islam, but you didn't leave Islam at the time. Did these things, like, how did you come across these videos on YouTube? Were you looking for stuff Islamic, or did you just come across it coincidentally?
So at first I didn't come across the YouTube videos. I was actually like looking up hadiths. Like I when I was looking up hadith, I was trying to be a better Muslim. I wasn't trying to leave Islam in any ways, but then I came up with the hadith about Aisha's age when she was consummating, like when she was consummated by Muhammad. And then I I just felt sick right on the spot. Like my English wasn't as good at that time. I didn't know what consummation meant, so I looked it up on Google, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is so disgusting! I feel so sick. I'm gonna puke right away." Like that's how bad I felt when I read that. But at the same time, I couldn't like convince myself to live Islam. I was in like straight denial. I was like, "No, that's not true at all. This can be true. That does that mean that everything I've learned, it was all fake? Does that mean my whole life was a lie? Does that mean I'm losing my identity now as a Muslim?" Like those kind of thoughts came to me at once, and it was so overwhelming.
Well, did you then start to look for explanations for these issues in Islam, or?
No, not really. So I was 14 or 15 at that time. It wasn't until when I turned 16 that I moved to the United States. And then even then, I was still considering myself Muslims. But then what happened was that the pandemic, of course, it took place. And then I spent a lot of time on internet besides doing my virtual classes to graduate high school. And then I just randomly one day came across Apostate Prophet and then started listening to him. And I don't know, I couldn't bring myself to hate him or you. Like, even though you guys are saying stuff that I didn't agree with at that time, I was like, but still, I want to hear them out. Like, I want to know what they have to say, because I, like, the Muslims in my circle, like, even my mom, she never read the Hadith as much as I did. I feel like, in a way, I was more religious than my mom. But yeah, there's that. And then my brother, he's a Muslim. He's actually a very practicing Muslim, but he's homosexual. And then I asked him that, hey, why do you still believe in Islam? And then he was like, well, Allah put this to me as a test. He doesn't want me to act upon it, so I'm gonna stay a Muslim. He never showed me he never showed any type of dissent. Like, he wasn't rude to me ever. So I guess in a way, I can coexist with them, my Muslim mother and Muslim brother, in the same household. So we did have fights. Like, I had fights with my mother regarding my apostasy. I actually came clean to her because I figured that well, she might notice that I'm not praying anymore. I might as well come clean. And if I was still in Bangladesh, I probably wouldn't tell her, but I know that she couldn't hurt me here. I'm her own daughter, so I feel like that if she does something to me, she might end up in jail, and I believe she wouldn't harm me in any way, because I know for a fact that my mother loves me and she cannot do anything that would harm me. So that's why I felt safe to like come out as a ex-Muslim in my family.
And how does it feel after having told her and the dust settled and everything?
She actually cried a lot. I felt bad for her. And she was like, "Dear, why the hell did you live Islam? I'm so do you know how much that hurts me? First your dad, now you." And the thing is that my dad has nothing to do with me living Islam. My dad left Islam because simply he doesn't believe in God, and I left Islam because of the stuff Muhammad, this disgusting stuff Muhammad did. It wasn't necessarily because I do not believe in God, but yeah, that's basically it.
It's interesting that I had asked you, how do you feel now after everything? And you would still think about how she felt, right? And that is not a fault of yours, but it's indicative of how in these dynamics you focus on their reaction, you focus on their feelings about what happened, but not you. But how did you feel like now that, now that she knows, now that you got it off your chest, how do you feel about it?
I felt like that a huge burden was like lifted from me. I never felt so freeing. Like I think my I had a happy ending compared to most ex-Muslims, I think. Like in Bangladesh, I actually have a classmate whose dad he published a book regarding homosexuality, and the writer was different and the publisher was different, but they both like published a book that was on homosexuality. The writer was first killed by I guess terrorists, and then it was all over the news, but the government or the police couldn't nab who exactly did that. And a couple months later, my classmate's dad, who's the publisher, he was killed a couple months later, and then that's when the government started taking the whole thing seriously. So I guess in a way, after seeing all this, I guess I felt like so much relieved that I left that cult. And in a way, I also suffer from cognitive dissonance. I also believe that I'm half of what a man is, and I hated myself for that. So I definitely feel like that I'm freed from like these shackles of disgusting religion.
I'm very sorry to hear about your friend, her loss, and the other person and everyone in their life, their loss. Yeah.
But yeah, and then something about one of the previous callers, like talking about like cousin marriage and whatnot. I also like, it didn't make sense to me that why like your first cousin or your second cousin cannot be your mahram. You are technically like related. You're like related to them. So I don't understand like why Islam allowed you to like marry your cousins. Like to me, they're like my siblings. There's no way I can see them as a potential suitor or a potential husband. Like that is disgusting. Like how does that even come to your mind?
Yeah, it's I can already sense the apologist answer about how, well, back then, tribes were small and there weren't that many people to go around. So, you had to marry someone. But it doesn't explain why it's a rule that is still allowed, like why it's objectively a decent thing to do. It is disgusting to me. It's, yeah, like just the thinking about my cousins, I cannot see them that way at all.
Yeah. One thing about Bangladesh is that cousin marriage do exist here, but it's not like in a higher percentage like Pakistanis or British Pakistanis. So in a way, I'm happy that it isn't as prominent there. So my mom's part of family, they come from a certain district in Bangladesh. I won't tell you which district. So a lot of Muslims marry their cousins. Like just a couple years ago, an aunt of mine married her cousin. So I was like, what the hell were you thinking? Why would you do that? I asked her that, like, how could you marry someone who's like your secondary brother? And she said that, well, he's not my first cousin, so it's totally fine. And I feel like that a lot of Muslims don't want to like look for suitors outside like the family, because I guess it's a bit hard to look for suitable husbands for their daughters. and maybe they want the family wealth to stay within the family. I guess that's something that like goes in their mind. I'm not sure.
And there's this idea that at least they know who their family is, and they know that they come from a good family, kind of thing, or like they're
Yeah.
familiar with their upbringing.
Mhm.
Which to me, like, aside from how gross it is, aside from the health issues, it's also boring. Like, imagine you you marry someone, and instead of getting a new half of the family, it's the same people again. Like, isn't that a bit boring? I
It's
don't
not
know.
just boring, it's just like disgusting. Like I also have like I have a really huge extended family, and none of the male cousins that I have, I don't see them as a potential boyfriend, potential lover, or potential husband. Like that's just gross. Even those that I don't see every year, like even them, I like, it's just ugh, gross.
Yeah. Oh well, I hope that this practice ends at some point.
And there's also some things that made me question like the legitimacy of Islam, is that I a lot of people, like a lot of poor people from rural areas, like they go to Saudi Arabia and Qatar for jobs. A lot of women from Bangladesh, they go to work as domestic servants in those Gulf countries. And I kind of noticed that they, whenever they go there, they tend to have their passports taken away from them, and then they're like beaten up by their like Saudi and Qatari masters. And I was like, why does the government like keep sending our women to those countries? I don't think that Arabs are bad in any way. I mean, you're from Saudi Arabia, aren't you? I cannot hate you because of that. But like for a while I actually resented Arabs for like, I feel like Arabs don't see South Asian Muslims as real Muslims. So that's something that caused me to hate Arabs for a while. But that was like a long time ago. I definitely don't think like this today.
No, I can understand that. I grew up in Saudi Arabia, but I'm not Saudi. So don't, whoever is in the Saudi government, don't send a guy with a machete to my place, please. I I can tell you that there's a lot of racism over there towards South Asians. There's the idea that yeah, sure, they're like trying to be Muslim, but they don't actually get it. They don't really speak Arabic. They've got like some weird mutations of Islam. That's not really like what it's supposed to be like. So we had this idea that they were doing their best. Like, I never thought of them as inferior, but I always thought that they don't quite get it like we do, or like Arabs do. And unfortunately, I did conform to the racism that I grew up in at some point. I wasn't outwardly hateful towards like, I was gonna say brown people. We didn't even see ourselves as brown people. We saw Daisies as like the brown people. It's this weird idea that anyone who's like darker than you or like different than you, they're the minority. They're the ones who you can be racist towards. So there's a lot of these sentiments going on in the Middle East. So I understand it when someone says that they hate Arabs partly also because of their people's kind of obsession with Arabs, or obsession with being Arab and being Muslim in an Arab way. So I understand it. I don't blame people for that. But of course, obviously, ever since I've like changed my mentality, and I've stopped having whatever negative like connotations I had in my mind about people from different backgrounds. But yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you have more time, I would also like to discuss like some of the stuff that's currently going on in Bangladesh.
Sure. Yeah.
So to me, I feel like Islam destroys other cultures. Like my country, it was originally part of India, but that was like a long time ago, and then later it became part of Pakistan. So but Pakistanis, they thought that East Pakistanis weren't like better Muslims, so their generals and their military like thought it was totally okay to rape Hindu women of Bangladesh and also Muslim women in Bangladesh. And the reason why is because even though like East Pakistanis or modern day Bangladeshis we were Muslims, like our women, we used to wear our traditional garb. So it's a sari and sometimes salwar kameez. So we used to wear that. So they were like that these girls aren't Muslim enough, they're disgusting, they need to be taught a lesson. They have so I guess during the liberation war in Bangladesh, a lot of Pakistani soldiers like raped a lot of Muslim and Hindu Bangladeshi women just because of the reason that like our traditional garb shows a little bit of skin. Just because of that, like it's just mind blowing. And Pakistanis back then, they didn't see Bangladeshis as like good Muslims. Like we weren't Muslim enough in their eyes. I know that the current generation of Pakistan don't think that, but I cannot forgive the military and the government of Pakistan for what they did to us 51 years ago from now. And currently a lot of Bangladeshis, they seem to like forget our culture and our past. Like just couple months back, there was this woman who went outside. She was like dressed in like as a Bengali woman. So she was wearing a sari, she was wearing a bindi or a teep, we call it here. And then she was like roaming in the streets. A cop came up to her and like chastised her for like dressing like that, for wearing something that belongs to her own culture. Like she said that you're dressed as a Hindu woman, I have to teach you a punishment. And he was harassing her and even threatened to like kill her. This is coming from a cop, by the way. Turns out that guy, he turned out to be a criminal because the motorcycle he was riding, he actually stole it from someone. And I felt like that, hey, you're not in a position to tell women how they should be dressing. Like, you are a thief, you are totally bad person, you should mind your own business. Like, how are you even in the police force? So that, I just find a lot of Muslims are hypocriticals.
I think people in general are hypocrites, but the Muslims tend to be silent about, well, not silent, they even encourage policing women in that way. So even if that guy wasn't a piece of crap thief, like people still wouldn't object too much to him harassing a woman, telling her how to dress, because it's that precedent has been set. Like I mentioned in a previous video, the Prophet's friend harassed his wife into dressing differently. Like that's just normal in Islam.
Wasn't it Umar who did that? Like
yeah.
he was the one, yeah.
Muhammad's wife was going to the bathroom and Omar said, "I can see you. You need to cover up your women better," which is disgusting. So I'm not surprised that a thief would do that. But we shouldn't just like scapegoat the thief and say it's because some people are criminals. No, it's a societal problem, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And also, just like Arab countries, Bangladeshis can be racist at time too. So a lot of people, there are indigenous Bangladeshis that are like they belong in different ethnic groups such as Garo, Chakma, Marma, and many more. Those women are sometimes like harassed by Bangladeshi military, and like they're raped as well. I feel like that I can't imagine harassing someone just because they're not the same ethnicity, the same race as me. So I'm even mad at fellow Bengalis and fellow Bangladeshis for harassing others just because they're from a different religion, just because they're atheists, just because they belong to a different ethnicity. So so in a way, I'm glad that I left Bangladesh. It's also not because of Islam that I left, that my family left Bangladesh. My dad, he was an activist in Bangladesh. I can't tell you what kind of activism he did, but it had nothing to do with Islam. It's more like the autocratic government. So it was getting unsafe for us to live here, so we eventually moved to North America.
I'm happy that you're in a safer place, and I'm sorry to all the people that you had mentioned are suffering. I hope that someday you could do something for those people, given how you're in a better place now.
I also had a question for you. You said that you're not originally from Saudi, but are you an Arab?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I keep it
and-
vague, but yeah, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, but I'm not Saudi. I make that a point because I want to make sure that Saudi authorities don't think that I'm some kind of defector Saudi who's talking about the government and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I'm a national of a different country, not Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Yeah, understood. Well, thanks for having me. It was nice talking to you, and
Yeah, likewise.
keep up the great work.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. All right. Thank you to all the callers today. Every single call was interesting and hopefully was as productive and helpful for them as it was for me. I want to share something before I go. This is call number 9 right now of, for ex-Muslims to call in and share their stories. I might have had even similar stuff untitled something else before. So I've had at least like 10 of these calls and 11 or so of these live streams where believers would call in. And throughout all of these 20 plus live streams and other instances, I've had a lot of realizations about myself, about people and why they believe, about a lot of things. And it all culminated in a week or so ago. I had to sit down and think and write. I felt compelled to write down a lot of thoughts that I had about how the religion has affected my mental health. I've shared a little bit of it here and there during these calls. Some of it I realized with clarity when I was trying to relate to the other callers. Some of it I felt that I talked a little bit about to give context, but none of it has been compiled into like one video where I just talk about the topic. So that is a work in progress that hopefully I will have out soon, but it's very difficult to work on that video because, as you can imagine, every time I try to think about how to word every way that Islam has affected my mental health growing up, it's not easy. And sometimes it makes me upset at, I don't know at who, because I'm not upset at the people around me who brought me up that way. I think they were trying to do their best. Like they weren't doing anything maliciously. I'm not upset at Muhammad because I see him as some kind of, fictional figure almost, with the amount of extra lore that has been added to his life after his death. I don't see him as some kind of cunning man who intended for all of this to happen. I see him as someone who needed help. And if he was born today, he would get the help, hopefully, that he needed. But instead, we got a religion out of it, and a lot of people got harmed. But I just get upset that I went through all that, and I still have to work very hard to say it in the right way, to try to appease, or not appease, to try to get the point across to people who are so far off from understanding how mentally harmful this religion can be, or religion in general can be. And I know some of you watching are not necessarily Muslim or ex-Muslim, and you might be able to relate to some of what I'm going to talk about too. So, yeah, that's something that I'm working on, and hopefully it's going to be a video in the near future. It's not going to be a fancy video. There's not going to be a lot of editing. There might not be any jokes in it. So I hope that doesn't discourage people from watching it. I thought about doing it as a live stream because my ideas seem to flow better in a live stream than when I sit down and try to record a video. But I think that would be too long and it won't reach all the people that I need it to reach. So hopefully that's one of the upcoming videos that you'll be seeing very soon. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining today. It was a very good live stream, and talk to you all and see you all again in a week or two. And as always, think critically and think for yourself.